A millionaire hides his fortune from his family for years, trying to escape the mistakes of the past. One day, his little daughter excitedly shouts, "Daddy, I found a treasure!" When the millionaire sees her digging up the money, he is completely shocked, and what happens next is astonishing. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the modest backyard of 247 Oak Lane. 7-year-old Lily Thompson dug enthusiastically in the soft earth, her pink plastic shovel moving with determination. Her brunette pigtails bounced with each scoop of dirt, and her eyes sparkled with the possibility of discovery. Just like the treasure hunters she'd seen in her favorite movies, she was convinced that something spectacular lay beneath the surface of her new home's backyard. "X marks the spot," she declared to her stuffed bear, Mr. Buttons, who sat propped against the old oak tree, keeping watch over her expedition. The moving boxes had barely been unpacked, but Lily's imagination had already transformed this simple backyard into a world of endless possibilities. Inside the modest 2-story house, Eleanor Thompson watched her stepdaughter through the kitchen window while preparing dinner. A small smile played across her lips as she observed Lily's dedicated digging. The transition to this middle-class neighborhood had been challenging for all of them, especially after living in their luxurious penthouse downtown. But William, her husband, had insisted on the move, claiming they needed a fresh start away from their previous lifestyle. Eleanor's thoughts were interrupted by a distinctive scraping sound from the yard. Lily's shovel had struck something solid. The little girl's excited squeal pierced the quiet afternoon air as she frantically began clearing away the dirt with her hands. "I found something! I found something!" Lily's voice trembled with excitement as she revealed the corner of what appeared to be an old leather briefcase. Eleanor's curiosity piqued. She moved closer to the window. The sight of the briefcase emerging from the earth sent an inexplicable chill down her spine. Something about William's insistence on buying this particular house, with its oversized backyard, suddenly seemed less random. "Daddy, Daddy, come quick!" Lily's shouts echoed through the house. "I found treasure!" William Thompson's heavy footsteps thundered down the stairs. Eleanor turned just in time to see her husband's face drain of color as he rushed past her toward the back door. She had never seen him move so quickly, nor with such obvious distress. The scene that unfolded in the backyard felt like slow motion to Eleanor. William reached Lily just as she managed to pull the briefcase free from its earthen prison. The leather was worn but still intact, sealed with brass clasps that had weathered years underground. "Look what I found, Daddy. Can we open it? Please, please, please?" Lily bounced with anticipation, completely oblivious to her father's rigid posture and clenched jaw. William forced a smile, but Eleanor recognized the tension in his shoulders, the slight tremor in his hands as he knelt beside their daughter. "That's quite a discovery, Princess," he managed, his voice surprisingly steady. "But this is a special kind of treasure, one that needs to stay our secret for now, okay?" Lily's eyes widened with delight at the word secret. To her young mind, this only added to the adventure. "Like a super special treasure that only we know about. That's even better." "Exactly," William agreed, quickly gathering the briefcase in his arms. "Now, why don't you go wash up for dinner? I smell Mum's famous lasagna cooking." Lily skipped toward the house, her imagination already spinning tales about her mysterious discovery. As she passed through the kitchen, she whispered dramatically to Eleanor, "Mum, we found buried treasure, but it's a secret, okay?" Eleanor nodded, playing along, but her eyes remained fixed on William, who stood motionless in the backyard, clutching the briefcase as if his life depended on it. The sunlight caught his face, highlighting beads of sweat on his forehead despite the mild temperature. When he finally turned toward the house, his eyes met Eleanor's through the window. In that moment, she saw something she had never witnessed in her usually confident husband: raw fear. The man who had swept her off her feet 3 years ago with his charm and self-assurance suddenly looked vulnerable, almost haunted. As William carried the briefcase into his study, carefully locking the door behind him, Eleanor's mind raced with questions. What else lay buried in their backyard? And more importantly, what was her husband hiding? The evening sun continued its descent, casting an orange glow across the freshly disturbed earth in the backyard. The hole Lily had dug stood as a stark reminder that some discoveries once unearthed could never be buried again. The dinner table that evening was thick with unspoken tension. The lasagna, despite Eleanor's culinary expertise, felt heavy and tasteless in her mouth as she watched William pushing food around his plate. Lily, oblivious to the adult's discomfort, chatted enthusiastically about her plans for future treasure-hunting expeditions. "Maybe tomorrow we can dig in a different spot, Daddy. Mr. Buttons thinks there might be more treasure hiding somewhere." "Else in the yard," Lily's fork waved excitedly in the air as she spoke. William's knuckles whitened around his own fork. "I don't think that's a good idea, sweetheart. The yard isn't a place for digging. We wouldn't want you to hurt yourself." Eleanor observed the exchange with growing concern. William had always encouraged Lily's adventures and imagination. This sudden shift in attitude only confirmed her suspicions that something was terribly wrong. "But Daddy," Lily protested, her lower lip quivering slightly, "you always say that explorers never give up. Remember when you told me about the time you and Uncle Michael went looking for hidden treasures in the desert?" The mention of Michael caused William to drop his fork. With a loud clatter, the sound echoed through the suddenly silent dining room. Eleanor watched as her husband's face contorted with what appeared to be pain before he quickly masked it with a forced smile. "That was different, Princess. Those were just stories. Real yards aren't meant for treasure hunting." His voice was gentle but firm, leaving no room for argument. Lily slumped in her chair, disappointment evident on her small face. Eleanor reached over to stroke her stepdaughter's hair consolingly. "How about we plan something special for your treasure hunting adventures? We could set up a scavenger hunt in the park this weekend." The little girl's face brightened somewhat at the suggestion, but Eleanor's attention remained fixed on William. His reaction to Michael's name hadn't gone unnoticed. In the 3 years they'd been married, William had never mentioned anyone named Michael, yet Lily spoke of him with such familiarity. As Lily finished her dinner and asked to be excused to watch her favorite cartoon show, Eleanor seized the opportunity to probe deeper. "Who's Uncle Michael?" she asked, keeping her voice casual as she began clearing the plates. William stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "No one important. Just someone I used to know." He turned to leave the room, but Eleanor wasn't about to let him escape so easily. "William," she called after him, her voice firm, "we need to talk about what Lily found today." He paused in the doorway, his back rigid. "There's nothing to talk about, Eleanor. It's just an old briefcase, probably left by the previous owners." "Is that why you looked like you'd seen a ghost when she dug it up?" Eleanor challenged, stepping closer to him. "Is that why you've locked yourself in your study for the past hour? Because it's nothing." William turned to face her, and for a moment, Eleanor saw a flicker of the man she'd fallen in love with. Vulnerable, honest, real. But just as quickly, the walls came back up. "Some things are better left in the past," he said quietly. "Trust me on this, Eleanor. Please." The pleading note in his voice gave her pause. In their entire relationship, she had never heard him beg for anything. William Thompson had always been the epitome of confidence and control. This display of vulnerability was as unsettling as it was intriguing. Through the living room doorway, they could hear Lily's cartoon playing, her occasional giggles providing a stark contrast to the heavy atmosphere between them. Eleanor moved closer to her husband, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Whatever it is, whatever you're hiding, I'm here. We're family, William. You don't have to carry your burdens alone anymore." For a moment, it seemed like he might finally open up. His eyes softened and his shoulders slumped slightly. But then Lily's voice rang out from the living room, asking for her bedtime story, and the moment shattered. "I should get her ready for bed," William said, stepping away from Eleanor's touch. "We can talk about this another time." As she watched him walk away, Eleanor made a silent decision. If William wouldn't provide answers, she would find them herself. The backyard held secrets, and now that one had been unearthed, she was determined to uncover them all. Through the kitchen window, the disturbed earth in the yard seemed to mock her with its possibilities. What else lay buried beneath the surface of their seemingly ordinary life? As the evening shadows lengthened across the lawn, Eleanor began formulating a plan. Tonight, after William and Lily were asleep, she would conduct her own exploration. The grandfather clock in the hallway struck midnight, its deep chimes resonating through the silent house. Eleanor stood at her bedroom window, watching the moonlight cast eerie shadows across the backyard. William's steady breathing behind her confirmed he was finally asleep, exhausted from the day's events and the weight of whatever secret he carried. She had waited patiently, going through their normal evening routine without letting on about her plans. William had been particularly attentive during Lily's bedtime story, as if trying to make up for his earlier abruptness. The tender moment between father and daughter had almost made Eleanor reconsider her midnight mission, but the memory of William's fear-stricken face when Lily discovered the briefcase strengthened her resolve. With practiced stealth, Eleanor retrieved the gardening spade she had hidden in the laundry room earlier that evening. The metal felt cool against her palm as she made her way downstairs, carefully avoiding the creaky third step. The kitchen door's hinges had been oiled that afternoon, ensuring they wouldn't betray her presence. The night air carried a slight chill as Eleanor stepped into the backyard. The moon provided enough light to navigate, but she had also brought a small flashlight, keeping its beam pointed downward to avoid attracting attention from neighboring houses. The hole Lily had dug earlier remained as a starting point, a symbolic entrance into the mysteries buried beneath their ordinary life. Eleanor began methodically probing the ground around the original discovery site. The spade met only soft earth for the first few attempts, but then a distinct thud. Her heart raced as she carefully cleared away the soil. Within minutes, another briefcase emerged from its earthen tomb, similar to the one Lily had found, but newer in appearance. Hands trembling with anticipation and nerves, Eleanor lifted the case from its hiding place. Unlike the first briefcase, this one's clasps were not corroded. They opened with a soft click that seemed thunderous in the quiet night. Inside, neatly bundled stacks of $100 bills filled half the space. The other half contained documents, contracts, letters, and photographs that made Eleanor's blood run cold. One photograph in particular caught her attention. William, years younger but unmistakable, standing beside a man she didn't recognize. They were both smiling, arms around each other's shoulders, standing in front of an impressive office building. The back of the photo bore an inscription: William and Michael, Thompson & Sullivan Investments, opening day. Michael. The mysterious Uncle Michael that Lily had mentioned. Eleanor's mind raced as she began scanning the documents. Terms like hedge fund, offshore accounts, and liability jumped out at her. But it was a handwritten letter that finally began filling in the puzzle pieces. William, what you've done is unforgivable. Those people trusted us, trusted you. I've lost everything because of your schemes, but worse than that, I've lost my best friend. The William Thompson I knew would never have betrayed people this way. The money you're hiding belongs to them, to all the families we ruined. Your conscience may let you sleep at night, but mine won't. Michael Sullivan. Eleanor's hands shook as she read the letter again. The implications were staggering. Her husband, the man she trusted, the man who was such a loving father to Lily, had a past filled with deception and betrayal. The modest house, the sudden move from their luxurious lifestyle, it all began making terrible sense. A sudden noise from the house made her freeze. Through the kitchen window, she could see a light had been turned on upstairs. Moving quickly but carefully, Eleanor replaced everything in the briefcase exactly as she had found it and returned it to its hole, covering it with dirt. She had just finished when William's voice called out from the back door. "Eleanor, what are you doing out here?" She stood slowly, brushing dirt from her knees, mind racing to formulate a response. The truth balanced on the tip of her tongue, fighting with the instinct to protect the fragile piece of their family life. As she turned to face her husband, the weight of his secrets pressed against her chest like a physical force. William stood in the doorway, backlit by the kitchen light, his expression unreadable, but Eleanor could see his eyes fixed on the gardening spade still clutched in her hand. The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken accusations and feared revelations. "I couldn't sleep," Eleanor said, her voice steadier than she felt. "The garden helps me think." The lie tasted bitter in her mouth, but she needed time to process what she had discovered before confronting William with the truth. William's eyes narrowed slightly as he studied her face. "At midnight?" "In the exact spot where Lily was digging." "Earlier?" The challenge in his voice was clear. Eleanor straightened her spine, decision made. No more lies, William. I found another briefcase. I saw the money, the documents. I saw everything. The change in William's demeanor was immediate and dramatic. His shoulders slumped as if under an invisible weight, and he seemed to age years in mere seconds. Without a word, he stepped aside, gesturing for her to come inside. In the kitchen, William moved mechanically, preparing 2 cups of coffee, although neither of them would likely sleep tonight anyway. Eleanor sat at the counter, watching him, trying to reconcile this defeated man with the confident, successful businessman she had married. "I suppose you have questions," William finally said, placing a steaming mug in front of her. His voice was rough with emotion. "Who is Michael Sullivan?" Eleanor asked, deciding to start with what seemed like the center of the mystery. "Lily mentioned him at dinner, and I saw the photograph." William's hands tightened around his coffee mug. "Michael was my best friend since college. We built our investment firm together, brick by brick. He was brilliant with numbers. I was good with people. We were unstoppable, until I got greedy." He paused, taking a shaky breath before continuing. "We started making riskier investments, pushing the boundaries of what was legal. I convinced Michael it was necessary to stay competitive. When things went wrong, I made some decisions without consulting him, decisions that cost our clients everything." "And Michael?" Eleanor prompted, although she suspected she knew the answer from the letter she'd read. "He lost everything too. His savings, his reputation, his family's trust fund, all gone because he trusted me." William's voice cracked. "He confronted me about it, threatened to go to the authorities. I managed to hide most of the money before anyone could trace it, but the guilt never went away." Eleanor thought of the briefcases buried in their backyard, of the comfortable life they'd been living. "How much is out there, William?" "Enough to ruin us if anyone finds out," he admitted. "After my first wife passed away, I promised myself I'd never touch that money again. I moved us here, started over with honest work, tried to be the father Lily deserves. When you came into our lives, I thought maybe I could finally leave the past behind. But you can't just bury your mistakes and expect them to disappear," Eleanor said softly. "What about all those people who lost everything? Don't they deserve to know?" William's face contorted with shame. "Every day I think about them. Every time I see Lily playing, carefree and happy, I remember the children of our investors who lost their college funds, their inheritances. Want to make it right, Eleanor, I do. But I'm terrified of losing everything again, losing you and Lily." Eleanor reached across the counter and took his hand. "The William Thompson I know, the man I married, the wonderful father to Lily. That's who you really are, but you can't move forward while you're chained to the past." "What are you saying?" William asked, hope and fear mingling in his voice. "I'm saying we face this together," Eleanor replied firmly. "We find a way to make amends without destroying our family. There must be a way to help those people without—" She was interrupted by a sound from the doorway. They both turned to find Lily standing there in her butterfly pajamas, clutching Mr. Buttons tightly. "Daddy? Are you crying?" Lily's small voice was filled with concern as she padded over to her father. William quickly wiped his eyes, lifting Lily onto his lap. "Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're trying to fix big mistakes, Princess." "Like when I broke Mom's favorite vase and tried to hide it?" Lily asked innocently. Eleanor couldn't help but smile at the comparison. "Something like that, sweetheart. But you know what made that situation better? When you told the truth and tried to make it right." William's eyes met Eleanor's over their daughter's head, understanding passing between them. The path forward wouldn't be easy, but they would face it as a family. The following morning dawned with a heavy sense of uncertainty hanging over the Thompson household. Eleanor sat at the kitchen table, nursing her 3rd cup of coffee, watching Lily happily munch her cereal while chattering about her plans for the day. William had left early for work, the weight of their midnight conversation evident in his hurried goodbye. "Mom, can I tell Lisa about the treasure we found?" Lily asked suddenly, milk dribbling down her chin. "She's my best friend, and she's really good at keeping secrets." Eleanor's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't considered the possibility of Lily sharing their discovery with her friends. "Sweetheart, remember what Daddy said about this being our special family secret." But Lisa tells me all her family secrets, Lily protested, pushing her empty bowl away. Like how her mom has a special credit card her dad doesn't know about, or how her older brother sneaks out at night. Eleanor made a mental note to be more careful about Lily's playdates with Lisa, whose family apparently had their own share of secrets. Some secrets are different, honey. This one is particularly important to keep to ourselves. Promise me? Lily's lower lip trembled slightly, but she nodded. I promise. But can we at least play treasure hunters at recess, without telling about the real treasure? That sounds like a perfect compromise, Eleanor agreed, relieved. As she watched Lily skip off to get ready for school, her phone buzzed, with a text message from an unknown number. I know what William's hiding. Meet me at Harper's Cafe at 2 p.m. if you want to protect your family. Come alone. Eleanor's hands trembled as she read the message again. The timing was too precise to be a coincidence. Had someone seen her digging in the yard last night? She thought about calling William, but hesitated. He was already struggling with the weight of his past. She didn't want to add to his burden, without knowing more. After dropping Lily off at school, Eleanor spent the morning in a state of anxious anticipation. She cleaned the house compulsively, trying to keep her mind off the mysterious message. At 1:45 p.m., she found herself parking outside Harper's Cafe, a quaint little establishment in the older part of town. The bell above the door chimed as she entered, and her eyes immediately fell on a man sitting alone in a corner booth. He was in his early 50s, with silver-streaked dark hair and tired eyes that carried years of disappointment. Something about his features seemed vaguely familiar. Mrs. Thompson, he called out softly, gesturing to the empty seat across from him. Thank you for coming. I'm Benjamin Sullivan, Michael's brother. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. The family. Resemblance she'd noticed suddenly made sense. He shared the same strong jawline as the man in the photograph with William. How did you find us, she asked, sliding into the booth while keeping her phone close, ready to call for help if needed. Benjamin's smile was bitter. Small towns talk, Mrs. Thompson, especially when a little girl starts telling her friend about finding buried treasure in her backyard. Lisa Anderson's mother is quite the gossip at her book club. Eleanor silently cursed the suburban grapevine. What do you want? Justice, Benjamin replied simply. My brother lost everything because of your husband's actions. Our entire family was ruined. Michael has never been the same since then. He lost his home, his marriage fell apart, and his children barely speak to him anymore. The weight of William's past actions felt heavier with each word. I only learned about all this last night, Eleanor admitted. William's trying to make things right. Benjamin leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Is that why he's hiding millions in your backyard instead of returning it to the people he cheated? Some of our investors lost their life savings. Elderly couples who had to come out of retirement. Families who couldn't send their kids to college. It's complicated, Eleanor defended weakly, though her heart ached for the victims of William's past decisions. Actually, it's quite simple, Benjamin countered, sliding a business card across the table. That's Michael's number. He deserves to hear the truth from William himself. If he doesn't call within 48 hours, I'm going to the authorities with what I know. Eleanor stared at the card, her mind racing. And if he does call, then maybe we can find a way to make this right without destroying more lives. Benjamin stood, leaving money for his untouched coffee. 2 days, Mrs. Thompson. The clock's ticking. Eleanor's drive home from Harper's Cafe felt like a journey through fog. Her mind clouded with competing thoughts and emotions. The business card Benjamin had given her seemed to burn in her purse, a physical manifestation of the countdown now hanging over their heads. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dashboard, reminding her that precious hours were already slipping away. When she pulled into their driveway, she was surprised to see William's car already there. Through the living room window, she could see him pacing, phone pressed to his ear. As she approached the front door, his raised voice became clearer. You don't understand. I can't just transfer that kind of money without raising red flags, William was saying, his free hand raking through his disheveled hair. I need more time to figure this out. Eleanor's entrance caught his attention, and the color drained from his face. I have to go, he said quickly into the phone. I'll call you back. Who was that? Eleanor asked. though she already suspected, the answer. William sank into the nearest chair, looking utterly defeated. Michael found me at work today. He showed up at my office, Eleanor. After all these years, he just walked in like a ghost from the past. Someone told him where to find me. Benjamin, Eleanor said quietly, pulling the business card from her purse. I met him today at Harper's Cafe. He sent me a text, threatening to go to the authorities if you didn't contact Michael within 48 hours. Benjamin? William's voice cracked with disbelief. He was always the rational one, the peacemaker. If he's involved now... He trailed off, the implications hanging heavy in the air. Eleanor sat beside him, taking his trembling hands in hers. William, we need to tell me everything. No more secrets, no more half-truths. What exactly happened between you and Michael? William's shoulders slumped as the facade he'd maintained for so long finally crumbled completely. We weren't just business partners, Eleanor. Michael and I grew up together. His family took me in after my parents. After I lost them, we shared everything, dreams, fears, ambitions. When we started the investment firm, it wasn't just about making money. We wanted to help people build better futures. What changed? Success, William replied bitterly. We started making real money, attracting bigger clients. I convinced myself that taking bigger risks would mean bigger rewards for everyone. When things went south, I made choices, terrible choices. Instead of admitting our losses, I created fake accounts, moved money around, borrowed from one investor to pay another. Eleanor squeezed his hands encouragingly. And Michael didn't know? He suspected something was wrong, but I kept him in the dark as much as possible. By the time he discovered the full extent of what I'd done, it was too late. The firm was imploding. I managed to hide away some of the money, thinking I could somehow fix things later, but you never did, Eleanor finished softly. William shook his head, tears forming in his eyes. I convinced myself that disappearing was better than facing the consequences. I told myself I was protecting Lily after her mother passed away, that she needed at least one parent who wasn't gone. But the truth is, I was a coward. The sound of a car door slamming outside made them both jump. Through the window, they could see Lily climbing out of her friend Lisa's mother's minivan, waving goodbye with her typical enthusiasm. We have less than 2 days to make this right, Eleanor said urgently. Those people you hurt, they're real people with real families, just like us. We need to find a way to return the money without losing everything. William's expression shifted from despair to determination. Maybe there's a way. I have some connections, people who owe me favors. If I can set up a trust, make it look like an anonymous restitution fund. Daddy, Mum, Lily's voice rang out as she burst through the front door. You'll never believe what happened at school today. We had a special lesson about telling the truth and making things right when you make mistakes. The irony of their daughter's excitement wasn't lost on either adult. William pulled Lily into a tight hug, breathing in the innocent scent of her strawberry shampoo. That's a very important lesson, Princess, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Sometimes grown-ups need to remember it too. Eleanor watched them, her mind already formulating a plan. They had 48 hours to prevent their world from collapsing, but first they needed to contact the one person who could either help them rebuild or destroy everything, Michael Sullivan. The evening stretched endlessly as William sat, in his study, Michael's business card lying on the desk before him like a ticking bomb. Eleanor had taken Lily to her weekly dance class, giving him the privacy he needed to make this crucial call. The setting sun cast long shadows across the room, reminding him that their time was running out. After what felt like hours of staring at the number, William finally picked up his phone. His finger hovered over the keypad, memories flooding back of countless other calls he'd made to this same number years ago, sharing good news about successful investments, planning weekend barbecues, celebrating their children's birthdays. The phone rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. Older and harder than he remembered, but unmistakably Michael. I was wondering when you'd call, Michael said. No greeting, no warmth. Benjamin told me about his meeting with Eleanor. William's throat tightened. Michael, I don't even know where to begin. How about the truth? For once in your life, William, Just start with the truth. The bitterness in Michael's voice cut deep, but William forced himself to continue. You're right, you deserve the truth, all of it. Not just about the money, but about everything that happened. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I'm listening. Not like this, William said, making a decision. Face to face. You deserve that much. Name the time and place. Another pause. Longer this time. William could hear the faint sound of traffic in the background, wondering where Michael was, what his life looked like now. Tomorrow noon. Remember that little diner where we used to grab lunch when we were starting out? Charlie's. William's heart clenched. Charlie's was where they'd sketched out their first business plan on a paper napkin, dreaming of changing the world. I remember. Good. Come alone. Michael's voice softened slightly. And William, bring proof. Proof that you're really ready to make this right. The line went dead before William could respond. He sat back in his chair, emotionally drained but somehow lighter, as if taking this first step had already lifted some of the weight from his shoulders. The sound of the front door opening announced Eleanor and Lily's return. Soon the house filled with the familiar sounds of Lily's excited chatter about her dance class. William could hear Eleanor in the kitchen, probably starting dinner preparations. He made his way downstairs, pausing in the kitchen doorway to watch his family. Lily was perched on a stool at the counter, demonstrating her new dance moves, while Eleanor pretended to be an enthusiastic audience while chopping vegetables. How did it go? Eleanor asked quietly when Lily bounced off to change out of her dance clothes. We're meeting tomorrow at Charlie's, noon. William moved to help with dinner preparations, needing the normalcy of the routine. He wants proof that I'm serious about making amends. Eleanor set down her knife, turning to face him. And are you? Really ready to face everything? I have to be, William replied, his voice firm. For Lily's sake, for our sake, I can't keep running from my past. Then we'll face it together, Eleanor said, squeezing his hand. I've been thinking, I have some savings from before we met. It's not much, but it's something. And my grandmother's house in New Hampshire, we could sell it if we need to. William shook his head firmly. No, you're not sacrificing anything for my mistakes. Besides, it won't be enough. The amount we're talking about, it's substantial. How substantial? Eleanor asked, lowering her voice as Lily's footsteps thundered down the stairs. Before William could answer, Lily burst into the kitchen now, wearing her favorite unicorn pajamas. Daddy, can we have a treasure hunt at my birthday party next week, please? Lisa says her dad knows how to make really cool treasure maps. William froze, a new realization hitting him like a physical blow. Lily's birthday party. They had invited her entire class, including Lisa. If Benjamin had found them through Lisa's mother's gossip. Princess, about the party, he began carefully. I think we might need to make some changes to the plan. Lily's face fell. But you promised it would be the best party ever. You said we could have a bouncy castle and everything. Eleanor stepped in smoothly. And it will be amazing, sweetheart. We're just thinking maybe we could do something a little different, something special, just for your closest friends. Like a super secret special party? Lily asked, her imagination already spinning new possibilities. Exactly, William said, grateful for his daughter's ability to find excitement in any situation. But first, why don't you help Mum set the table? I need to make one more phone call before dinner. As Lily eagerly gathered plates and napkins, William retreated to his study once more. He had to contact the party rental company and cancel the elaborate plans they'd made. Every extra dollar would count now, and besides, they couldn't risk having half the neighborhood's parents gossiping about their lifestyle. Looking at his calendar, he realized with grim irony that Lily's birthday was exactly 1 week after his meeting with Michael. By then, their lives would be irrevocably changed, for better or worse. The next morning dawned grey and misty, matching William's mood as he stood in the backyard, shovel in hand. He had woken before sunrise, knowing what needed to be done before his meeting with Michael. Eleanor stood beside him, a flashlight cutting through the early morning gloom. Are you sure about this? She asked, scanning the yard for any early rising. Neighbors who might spot them. William nodded grimly. Michael wants proof. This is the only way. He began digging at the spots he had marked in his mind years ago, methodically unearthing briefcase after briefcase. As they worked, Eleanor couldn't help but marvel at the meticulous planning that must have gone into hiding everything. Each briefcase was wrapped in waterproof material, perfectly preserved despite years underground. By the time the sun had fully risen, they had recovered 6 briefcases in total. "Is this all of it?" Eleanor asked, helping William carry their findings to the garage. "Almost," William replied, his voice heavy with the weight of confession. "There's one more location, not here. I kept it separate, just in case everything else was discovered." Eleanor was learning to read between the lines of William's carefully chosen words. "Insurance," he nodded, unable to meet her eyes. "There's a storage unit across town. I've maintained it under a different name all these years. The last briefcase is there, along with all the original documentation, everything that proves where the money came from and where it went." The implications of this revelation hung heavy between them. William hadn't just hidden the money, he'd created an elaborate, fail-safe system, a web of protection that spoke to the magnitude of his past actions. "Mom! Dad!" Lily's voice called from the house. "Where are you? I'm going to be late for school." "Coming, Princess," William called back, quickly closing the garage door. They would have to finish this later. The morning routine proceeded with forced normalcy, getting Lily ready for school, making breakfast, packing lunch. But there was an undercurrent of tension that even Lily seemed to notice. "Why are you wearing your fancy suit, Daddy?" she asked as William adjusted his tie. "You never wear suits to work anymore." "I have an important meeting today, sweetheart," he replied, forcing a smile. "Remember how we talked about making things? Right when we make mistakes." Lily nodded solemnly. "Like when I broke Mrs. Peterson's window with my baseball and had to use my allowance to help pay for it." "Exactly like that," William said, his throat tight. "Sometimes grown-ups have to fix their mistakes too, even when it's hard." After dropping Lily at school, William and Eleanor drove to the storage facility in separate cars. Eleanor would need transportation back after William took the evidence to meet Michael. The storage unit was small and unremarkable, identical to dozens of others in the long rows of metal doors. William's hands shook slightly as he entered the code, a number he had memorized but never written down. The door rolled up with a metallic groan, revealing a space that appeared empty at first glance. But William moved purposefully to the back wall, pulling away a false panel to reveal a small safe. "The combination is Lily's birthday," he told Eleanor as he turned the dial. "I wanted something I'd never forget, but no one would think to try." Inside the safe lay a single briefcase, newer than the others, and a thick manila envelope. William removed both, handling them as if they might explode. "Everything's here," he said, more to himself than to Eleanor. "Every transaction, every account number, every decision that led to this moment." Eleanor placed a gentle hand on his arm. "You don't have to do this alone. Let me come with you to meet Michael." William shook his head. He was clear about coming. "Alone. Besides, I need you to do something else for me." He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. "This contains everything you need to know. Account numbers, passwords, contacts. If something goes wrong—" "Don't," Eleanor interrupted firmly. "Nothing is going to go wrong. You're doing the right thing, William. Finally." He managed a weak smile. "Keep your phone on. If you don't hear from me by 2 o'clock, I will hear from you," Eleanor insisted, "and then we'll figure out our next steps together." They shared a long look, years of trust and love flowing between them. Then William gathered the briefcase and envelope, squared his shoulders, and walked to his car without looking back. Eleanor watched him drive away, the envelope he'd given her feeling like lead in her pocket. The sky had cleared, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the storm was just beginning. Charlie's Diner hadn't changed much in 15 years. The same red vinyl booths lined the walls, the same vintage jukebox stood in the corner, even the same ancient ceiling fan spun lazily overhead. William sat in their old booth, third from the back with a clear view of both the entrance and the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee that tasted exactly as mediocre as he remembered. The briefcase sat beside him on the bench, its presence like a silent accusation. He'd arrived 20 minutes early, needing time to compose himself to prepare for what was coming. The waitress had already stopped by twice, concerned by his obvious anxiety, but he'd ordered nothing beyond the coffee. At exactly noon, the bell above the door chimed. William's heart seemed to stop as Michael Sullivan walked in. The years had changed him. His dark hair was now streaked with silver, deep lines etched around his eyes, but his presence still commanded attention. He moved with the same purposeful stride William remembered, scanning the diner until their eyes met. For a moment, neither man moved. Then Michael walked over, sliding into the opposite bench without a word. The waitress appeared almost immediately, but Michael waved her away with a polite smile. "You look different," Michael said finally, breaking the silence. "The William Thompson I knew wouldn't be caught dead in a suburb, living in a modest house, with a backyard. The William Thompson you knew was an arrogant fool who thought he could control everything," William replied quietly. "He learned his lesson the hard way." Michael's expression hardened. "Did he? Because from what I hear, you're still living off the money you stole, still hiding from the consequences of your actions." William pushed the briefcase across the table. "Open it." Michael stared at the briefcase for a long moment before reaching for the clasps. Inside, he found stacks of documents, bank statements, transfer records, account numbers, along with a USB drive. "Everything's there," William explained. "Every transaction, every account, every penny that was moved. The USB contains digital copies of all the records, plus a complete list of everyone who lost money because of my actions. I've spent years tracking them down, figuring out exactly what they lost." "Why?" Michael asked, his voice tight with emotion. "Why show me this now?" "Because you deserve to know the truth, and because I need your help to make it right." Michael laughed, but there was no humor in it. "My help? You destroyed our firm, ruined countless lives. Let me take the fall for your schemes, and now you want my help." "I want to return the money," William said firmly. "All of it. But if I just start transferring millions of dollars, it'll raise red flags. The authorities will get involved, and then no one will see a penny of it." "And you think I can help? You avoid that? I think you're still the smartest financial mind I've ever known, and I think you still care about helping those people, even if you hate me." Michael was silent for a long time, methodically going through the documents. William could see his analytical mind working, processing the information, seeing the bigger picture. "This is everything?" he asked finally. William shook his head. "There's more. 6 more briefcases, plus everything I've managed to save since then. I've never touched the original money, Michael. Not a single dollar of it." "Your lifestyle suggests otherwise." "I rebuilt from scratch," William explained. "Took a job in construction management, lived frugally, saved everything I could. Eleanor, my wife, she doesn't know the exact amounts, but she knows everything else. She's the one who convinced me to finally face this." Michael looked up sharply. "Your wife knows, and she's still with you?" "She believes in second chances," William said softly. "Like you used to." The words hung between them, heavy with shared history. Michael closed the briefcase slowly, his fingers lingering on the clasp. "Benjamin wants to go to the authorities," he said finally. "He thinks it's the only way to get justice. And what do you think?" Michael sighed, suddenly looking very tired. I think I need time to go through all of this, to verify your numbers, to see if your plan is even possible." "We don't have much time," William warned. "Benjamin gave us 48 hours. "Benjamin isn't the one you betrayed," Michael snapped, then closed his eyes, visibly calming himself. "Give me until tomorrow morning. I'll look through everything. Tonight. If, and this is a big if, I decide to help, we'll need to move fast." William nodded, relief washing over him. It wasn't forgiveness, wasn't even close, but it was a start. He pulled a business card from his pocket and wrote a number on the back. "My personal cell. Call me anytime." Michael took the card, studying it for a moment. "You named your company. Sullivan Construction?" William met his eyes steadily. "A daily reminder of the man I let down, the friend I lost." For the first time, something flickered in Michael's expression, not quite softening, but perhaps understanding. He stood, gathering the briefcase. "Tomorrow morning," he repeated. "And William, don't try to leave town. I'll know. The drive home from Charlie's diner felt surreal to William. The familiar streets of his neighborhood seemed somehow different, as if his conversation with Michael had altered the very fabric of his world. When he pulled into his driveway, he sat in the car for several long moments trying to process everything that had happened. Eleanor was waiting for him in the kitchen, a cup of tea growing cold in front of her. Her face showed the strain of hours spent wondering, worrying, imagining every possible outcome. "He's going to look through everything," William said before she could ask. "He'll decide by tomorrow morning." Eleanor released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "That's good? That he's willing to consider it?" "Maybe." Michael was always thorough. "He'll spend all night analyzing every detail, looking for any inconsistencies." William sank into a chair, exhaustion finally catching up with him. The Michael I knew would have already figured out 3 different ways to solve this problem. The question is whether he's willing to help the man I am now. Eleanor placed a fresh cup of tea in front of him. "Tell me about him." "The Michael you knew. Not the business partner, but the friend." A ghost of a smile crossed William's face. "He was brilliant. Not just with numbers, but with people too. He could look at a problem from angles nobody else would think of. When we were starting out, we'd spend hours in that diner planning our future. Michael was the one who insisted we focus on helping regular people invest, not just the wealthy. He believed everyone deserved a chance to build a better future." "Is that why you named your company after him?" William nodded. "Every time I see that name on a contract or a truck, I remember who I used to be and who I'm trying to become. It's my way of honoring the friend I betrayed." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of a car pulling up outside. Through the window, they could see Lily climbing out of her friend's mother's car after her after-school art class. "We can't tell her anything yet," Eleanor said quickly. "Not until we know for sure." William agreed just as Lily burst through the door, clutching a large piece of paper. "Daddy, look what I made in art class today. It's our family." The drawing showed 3 stick figures standing in front of a house, with what appeared to be a large X marked in the backyard. William's heart skipped a beat, but Lily was already explaining. "See, that's you and Mom and me. And I drew the treasure spot too, because that's part of our special family secret." Her face suddenly fell. "Oh no. Was I not supposed to draw that?" Eleanor stepped in smoothly. "It's a beautiful drawing, sweetheart. Why don't we hang it in the kitchen? Then you can tell us all about art class while we have a snack." As Lily chattered about her day, William's phone buzzed with a text message. His heart raced when he saw it was from Michael. "Some of these numbers don't add up. Meet me at the storage unit in an hour. Bring the other briefcases." William showed the message to Eleanor while Lily was distracted with her cookies and milk. "I have to go," he said quietly. "I'm coming with you," Eleanor insisted. "Lily can stay with Mrs. Peterson next door for an hour. She's been asking to play with their new puppy anyway." After arranging for Lily's care and retrieving the briefcases from their temporary hiding place in the garage, William and Eleanor drove to the storage facility. The sun was setting, casting long shadows between the rows of storage units. Michael was already there, pacing in front of the unit with a laptop under his arm. "I thought I said to come alone," he said when he saw Eleanor. "She's part of this now," William replied firmly. "Whatever you found, whatever happens next, we face it together." Michael studied Eleanor for a moment, then nodded curtly. "Fine, but you're not going to like what I discovered." He opened his laptop, turning it to show them a complex spreadsheet. "These transactions here, they don't match the timing of the firm's collapse. There was another player involved, someone else moving money around behind the scenes." William stared at the screen, his mind racing. "That's impossible. I tracked every penny." "Not these pennies," Michael said grimly. "And there's something else. Look at the dates of these transfers and then look at this." He pulled out a document from his briefcase. "This is from my personal records. Notice anything familiar?" As William studied the document, his face went pale. "These dates, they match the weeks leading up to—" "Exactly," Michael cut him off. "Someone else was orchestrating things long before you made your moves. The question is who, and why did they want our firm to fail?" The storage unit's fluorescent lights hummed overhead as William, Eleanor, and Michael huddled around the laptop. The evening air had grown chilly, but none of them noticed, too absorbed in the revelations unfolding before them. "Look at these. Transaction patterns," Michael explained, pointing to a series of numbers on the screen. "They're sophisticated, deliberately obscured, but there's a pattern. Someone with intimate knowledge of our operations was systematically weakening our position months before everything fell apart." Eleanor leaned closer, her business degree helping her follow the complex financial trail. "These transfers, they're all routed through shell companies, but they seem to lead back to the same source." Michael nodded approvingly. "Exactly. And look at the timing. Each major transfer occurred exactly 3 days before our biggest investment decisions. Almost as if someone knew what we were going to do before we did it," William finished, his voice hollow. "But that's impossible. The only people who had access to that level of information were you, me, and—" He trailed off, his face draining of color as realization struck. Michael watched him intently, waiting for the same conclusion he had already reached. "Margaret," William whispered, naming his first wife, Lily's mother. "She was our chief compliance officer." Eleanor's heart skipped a beat. She rarely heard William mention Lily's mother, and never in connection with the firm's collapse. But why would she want to sabotage her own husband's company? "That's what I couldn't figure out," Michael said, pulling another document from his briefcase. "Until I found this. It's a copy of an email thread I recovered from our old servers. Margaret was in contact with someone at International Financial Solutions in the weeks before our collapse." William's head snapped up. "IFS? They were our biggest competitors. We were in a bidding war with them over the Peterson account. An account we mysteriously lost, despite having the better proposal," Michael added. "The same week that large sums of money started disappearing from our investment pools." Eleanor watched the two men piece together this puzzle from their shared past, feeling simultaneously like an outsider and a crucial witness to this moment of revelation. "But why?" William asked, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "Margaret had everything to lose if the firm failed. Our lifestyle, our reputation, Lily's future." Michael's expression softened slightly for the first time that day. "That's what I've been trying to understand. According to these records, Margaret received a significant wire transfer from a Cayman Islands account 2 days after our firm's collapse was announced. The amount? Exactly $10 million. The implications hung heavy in the air. William stumbled backward until he hit the storage unit's wall, sliding down to sit on the concrete floor. Eleanor immediately moved to his side, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder. "She knew," William said, his voice breaking. "She knew everything was going to collapse, and instead of warning me, she took a payoff." "It gets worse," Michael continued, though his tone had lost its earlier edge of accusation. "The timing of her departure, it wasn't random. The insurance payout, combined with her hidden accounts, it was all part of a larger plan. She needed to disappear completely, leaving no loose ends." Eleanor gasped as the pieces fell into place. "That's why you buried the money, isn't it? You weren't just hiding from your mistakes. You were protecting Lily." William nodded slowly. "I found some of Margaret's documents afterward. Nothing concrete, but enough to make me suspicious. I knew if I started asking questions, if I drew attention to any of it." "Lily could have been in danger," Michael finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. "You let me believe you were the mastermind. Let me hate you all these years while you were actually trying to protect your daughter." "I couldn't take the risk," William said quietly. "Lily was all I had left. If whoever was behind all this thought I might expose their scheme—" Michael closed his laptop with a decisive click. "Well, that changes things. Benjamin's deadline isn't our biggest problem anymore. If we start moving this money around, start asking questions about what really happened, we could be putting everyone in danger," Eleanor realized, "including Lily." The sound of a car door slamming somewhere in the storage facility made them all jump. Michael quickly gathered his materials, speaking in an urgent whisper. "We need to be smart about this. I have contacts in financial forensics who can help us trace these transactions privately. But first we need to make sure Lily is safe." William stood up, new determination replacing his earlier shock. "Mrs. Peterson is watching her. We should get back." "No," Michael interrupted. If I've managed to uncover this much in just a few hours, others might be close too. You need to get Lily and go somewhere secure, somewhere not connected to any of us." Eleanor suddenly remembered something. "My grandmother's house in New Hampshire. It's remote, and it's not in my married name. Nobody would think to look for us there." Michael nodded approvingly. "Go, pack only what you need. I'll start working on tracking down the real story behind all this. And William?" He held out his hand. "I'm sorry I doubted you." William stared at the offered hand for a moment before grasping it firmly. "I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth sooner." As they hurried back to their cars, the weight of the past seemed to have shifted. The burden of secrets remained, but now it was shared between them, making it somehow more bearable. But new questions loomed. Who was really behind their firm's collapse? And after all these years, were they still watching? The drive home was tense, with William and Eleanor in separate cars to avoid drawing attention. Eleanor's mind raced with preparations, what to pack, what to tell Lily, how to make this sudden departure seem like an adventure rather than an escape. William followed close behind, constantly checking his rearview mirror for any signs of surveillance. When they pulled into their driveway, Mrs. Peterson was already outside with Lily, the elderly neighbor's new golden retriever puppy bouncing around their feet. Lily's face lit up when she saw her parents. "Mom, Dad, can Riley come to my birthday party? Mrs. Peterson says he's learning tricks and he could be part of the entertainment." Eleanor managed a warm smile despite her racing heart. "That sounds wonderful, sweetheart, but right now we need to go inside. We have a surprise for you." Lily's eyes widened with excitement. "A surprise? Is it another treasure?" "Even better," William said, taking her hand. "How would you like to go on a special vacation to Mom's grandmother's house in New Hampshire? The one with the big tree house and the lake?" Lily bounced with enthusiasm. "Can we go right now?" "Actually, yes," Eleanor replied, silently thanking whatever forces had made their daughter so adaptable. "We're going to pack right now. It's going to be a wonderful adventure." Mrs. Peterson looked concerned by the sudden departure, but William stepped closer to explain. "Family emergency," he said quietly. "Eleanor's grandmother needs our help. We might be gone for a while." The elderly woman nodded sympathetically, though her eyes held questions she was too polite to ask. "Of course, dear. Do you need me to keep an eye on the house?" "That would be wonderful," Eleanor said, pressing her spare key into Mrs. Peterson's hand. "And thank you for watching Lily today." Inside, they moved with controlled urgency. Eleanor had already started mentally cataloging essentials when her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Don't pack anything that could be tracked. Electronics, credit cards, anything with GPS. Cash only. I'll be in touch through secure channels." William was upstairs helping Lily pack her adventure bag, while Eleanor quickly gathered essential documents, birth certificates, passports, the envelope William had given her earlier. She also grabbed Lily's favorite stuffed animals and some family photos, knowing they might be away for longer than they were telling Lily. A soft knock at the back door made Eleanor freeze. Peering through the kitchen window, she relaxed slightly when she saw Michael standing there looking anxious. "What are you doing here?" she whispered after letting him in. "I thought we were supposed to maintain distance." "You are," he replied, quietly, placing a small package on the counter. "But you'll need these." Inside were 3 prepaid phones, basic models with no smart features. "They're clean, untraceable. I'll contact you on them once you're settled." Footsteps on the stairs announced William and Lily's return. Lily's eyes lit up when she saw Michael. "Uncle Michael, are you coming on our adventure too?" Michael knelt, down to her level, his expression softening. "Not this time, Princess, but I got you something for the trip." He pulled a small notebook from his pocket, leather-bound with a tiny lock. "Every good adventurer needs a secret diary." Lily clutched the diary to her chest, delighted. "Thank you, Uncle Michael. I'll write down everything we discover." The innocent comment made the adults exchange worried glances. Michael stood, addressing William and Eleanor in a low voice. "Benjamin's expecting me to update him soon. I'll tell him you're cooperating, buying us some time, but you need to be on the road within the hour." Eleanor nodded, already moving to finish their preparations. William pulled Michael aside for, a moment, speaking intently. "If anything happens, I'll protect them with my life," Michael promised, "just like you've been protecting Lily all these years." A car driving slowly past the house caught their attention. Through the window they could see it was just a neighbor returning home, but the moment of tension reinforced the urgency of their situation. "We need to go," Eleanor said, gathering their bags. "Lily, sweetheart, say goodbye to Uncle Michael. Our adventure is about to begin." Lily gave Michael a fierce hug. "Will you visit us at the lake house? I can show you all my treasure hunting spots." "As soon as I can, Princess," Michael assured her, his voice thick with emotion. "You focus on having a wonderful adventure with your mom and dad." As they loaded the car, Eleanor's deemed less recognizable than William's, Michael pulled out his phone and made a call. "The security team will be in position along your route within the hour. They're old friends who owe me favors. They'll make sure you're not followed." William gripped his old friend's shoulder. "Thank you for everything." "Just get your family somewhere safe," Michael replied. "I'll start digging into international financial solutions first thing tomorrow." Whoever was behind all this, they've had years to cover their tracks, but they didn't count on us working together to uncover the truth. As they pulled out of the driveway, Lily waved enthusiastically to Michael from the back seat. "Bye, Uncle." "Michael, don't forget to feed the unicorns while we're gone." Eleanor caught Michael's reflection in her rearview mirror, standing in their driveway with a worried expression that belied his earlier confident words. They were leaving behind their home, their possessions, their carefully constructed new life. But as she glanced at William beside her and Lily chattering excitedly in the back seat, she knew they were taking everything that truly mattered. The highway stretched endlessly before them, streetlights casting intermittent shadows across their faces as they drove through the night. Lily had finally fallen asleep in the back seat, clutching her new diary and Mr. Buttons close to her chest. Eleanor glanced at the rearview mirror, checking for the 100th time that no cars had followed them consistently since their departure. William sat in the passenger seat, alternating between studying the burner phone Michael had given them and watching the road ahead. They had been driving for 4 hours, taking indirect routes and making random stops as Michael had instructed, all to ensure they weren't being followed. "She's sleeping so peacefully," Eleanor whispered, glancing again at Lily in the mirror. "Do you think we did the right thing leaving so suddenly?" William reached over and squeezed her hand. "We didn't have a choice. If what Michael discovered is true, if international financial solutions is really involved," he trailed off, not wanting to voice his darkest fears. The burner phone vibrated softly, displaying a message from an unknown number. "Clean so far. Take the next exit. Contact at Murphy's gas station waiting with supplies. Password, Charlie's Special." Eleanor smoothly merged into the exit lane, following the signs to the small gas station that sat alone in the darkness, its fluorescent lights creating a pool of harsh brightness in the night. A single attendant stood outside, middle-aged with grey hair peeking out from under a worn baseball cap. William stepped out of the car, approaching the man casually. "Heard you guys have a Charlie's Special tonight." The attendant's posture shifted subtly, becoming more alert. "Fresh out, unfortunately, but I've got a care package your friend asked me to hold." He disappeared into the station's office, returning with a canvas duffel bag. Extra clothes, some food, and a few other necessities. There's also an envelope with new documents just in case. As William reached for his wallet, the man shook his head. "Already taken care of. Good luck, friend. Drive safe." He turned and walked back into the station without another word. Back in the car, Eleanor sorted through the supplies while William filled the gas tank. The documents turned out to be a set of pristinely forged passports and driver's licenses, just in case, as Michael had said. Eleanor felt a chill run down her spine, realizing just how serious their situation must be for Michael to have arranged such precautions. Lily stirred slightly as they pulled back onto the highway. "Are we there yet?" she mumbled sleepily. "Not yet, sweetheart," Eleanor replied softly. "But we're having quite an adventure, aren't we?" Lily nodded, already drifting back to sleep. "I'm writing everything in my special diary. Uncle Michael said it's important to keep good records of our discoveries." Eleanor and William exchanged worried glances. Lily's innocent comment about record-keeping hit too close to home, reminding them of the documents that had revealed the truth about Margaret's betrayal. The burner phone buzzed again. This time, it was a longer message from Michael. Making progress. Found connection between IFS and offshore account that paid Margaret. Someone trying to access old firm servers tonight. Not alone in this investigation. Stay dark. William's jaw clenched as he read the message. Michael thinks others are looking into the past too. After all these years, why now? Maybe because of Lily's treasure hunt, Eleanor suggested. The gossip about finding something valuable in our yard. What if it reached the wrong ears? Or the right ones, William mused. Michael always said there were irregularities in the firm's collapse that didn't make sense. What if someone else has been waiting all these years for a clue about where the money went? Eleanor merged onto a smaller state highway, following the signs toward New Hampshire. The night had grown darker, but the first hints of dawn were beginning to lighten the eastern sky. Lily's soft breathing from the back seat provided a rhythmic counterpoint to their worried thoughts. We should have gotten rid of everything years ago, William said quietly. The money, the documents, all of it. Instead, I kept it buried like some kind of insurance policy. You kept it because you knew someday you'd need to make things right, Eleanor corrected him. And now we have proof that you weren't the only one with secrets. Margaret's involvement with IFS, the mysterious payments. There's a bigger story here. The burner phone vibrated one final time. Benjamin, making noise, had to tell him partial truth to keep him quiet. He's angry but cooperating. We'll meet you at Safe House tomorrow. Watch for tail lights that match speed and turn patterns. As if on cue, Eleanor noticed a pair of headlights in her mirror, maintaining the same distance, despite her subtle speed changes. William, she said calmly, I think we have company. William checked the mirror, his expression grim. Take the next exit. Let's see if they follow. If they do... He reached into the duffel bag from the gas station, pulling out a sealed envelope, with instructions from Michael. While the Thompson family headed north, Michael Sullivan sat in his home office, surrounded by screens displaying financial records and old email chains. His coffee had grown cold hours ago, but he barely noticed, too engrossed in the digital trail he was following. The connection to international financial solutions was proving more complex than he'd initially thought. The offshore account that had paid Margaret was just the tip of the iceberg. As he dug deeper, he found a web of shell companies and hidden transactions that stretched back even before the firm's collapse. His computer chimed with an encrypted message from one of his contacts in the financial forensics world. Found something. IFS underwent major restructuring 2 months after your firm's collapse. New board members, all with connections to a holding company in the Cayman Islands, same company that controlled Margaret's payment account. Michael leaned back in his chair, pieces of the puzzle slowly shifting into place. It hadn't just been about destroying their firm. Someone had been orchestrating a hostile takeover, using Margaret as their inside source. But why wait all these years to surface again? His phone rang, displaying Benjamin's number. Michael hesitated before answering, knowing his brother wouldn't be happy with the recent developments. You let them go? Benjamin's voice was tight with anger. After all these years of searching for the truth, you just let them disappear again. It's not what you think, Benjamin, Michael replied wearily. William wasn't the mastermind we thought he was. He was protecting Lily from something bigger than all of us. Protecting her? From what? Michael sighed, deciding how much to reveal. Margaret was working with International Financial Solutions before she left. She took a payoff to help destroy our firm from the inside. William found evidence afterward but couldn't expose it without putting Lily at risk. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Why didn't he come to us? We could have helped. Could we? Michael challenged. We were all under investigation. Our phones were tapped, our accounts frozen, and someone was pulling strings behind the scenes that we never saw. What are you saying? I'm saying that whoever orchestrated this is still out there, and they're powerful enough to have kept their involvement hidden for 15 years. Michael pulled up another document on his screen, this one showing recent activity at International Financial Solutions. They're making moves again, Benjamin. Big ones. 3 major acquisitions in the past month, all companies with connections to our old client list. Benjamin's sharp intake of breath suggested he understood the implications. They're consolidating power, but why now? I don't know, Michael admitted, but I've got people watching William's house. 2 different vehicles have driven by in the past hour taking photos. Someone knows something's happening. Where did you send them? Benjamin asked, his tone softening slightly. Better if you don't know. But I need your help. Your contacts in the Regulatory Commission. Can they access International Financial Solutions' original incorporation documents? Not the public ones, but the real ownership records. It'll take some doing, Benjamin said thoughtfully, but I might know someone who owes me a favor. What am I looking for? Board members from 15 years ago, specifically anyone with connections to a company called Meridian Holdings. The company that paid Margaret? No, Michael corrected, pulling up another document. The company that owned the company that paid Margaret. Someone went to a lot of trouble to hide their involvement. Multiple layers of shell companies, all leading back to Meridian. I'll see what I can find out, Benjamin promised. But Michael, be careful. If these people are as powerful as you think, I know. That's why I've got a backup plan. Michael opened his safe, removing a thick envelope. Everything I've discovered, all the evidence, it's being sent to 3 different secure locations. If anything happens to me, it all goes public. Just like old times, Benjamin said, a hint of their old camaraderie creeping into his voice. You always did have a flair for the dramatic. After ending the call, Michael returned to his investigation with renewed focus. Something about the timing of Margaret's involvement nagged at him. Opening their old firm's personnel records, he began cross-referencing dates. When she was hired, her promotions, her access levels to sensitive information. A pattern began to emerge, one that made his blood run cold. Margaret hadn't just been approached by International Financial Solutions before the firm's collapse. She had been placed there years earlier, a sleeper agent waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The question was, who had the foresight and the resources to plan something so elaborate? And more importantly, what were they planning now? His computer chimed again, this time with an alert from one of his surveillance programs. Someone was attempting to access their old firm's archived servers, just as they had the previous night. But this time, Michael was ready. He initiated his trace program, watching as it began tracking the intrusion back to its source. The results made him sit up straight in his chair. The access attempt was coming from inside International Financial Solutions corporate headquarters. Someone else was looking for answers about the past, and they weren't bothering to hide their tracks. Either they were getting sloppy or... Michael reached for his phone to warn William and Eleanor, then stopped. No, better to wait until he had more concrete information. For now, they needed to focus on reaching the safe house. Tomorrow, when he joined them, he would share everything he'd discovered. The sealed envelope from Michael contained a series of precise instructions and a small device that looked like a car key fob. William studied the directions quickly, while Eleanor took the exit, her hands steady on the wheel despite her racing heart. 2 miles ahead, there's a 24-hour truck stop, William read quietly. Michael has a contact there. The device will disable any tracking equipment when we press the button, but it only works for 30 minutes. Eleanor checked the mirror again. The suspicious car had followed them off the highway, maintaining its calculated distance. Lily's still sleeping. If we have to move quickly... I'll carry her, William assured her. Just follow the plan exactly, as Michael wrote it. The truck stop appeared ahead, a bright oasis in the pre-dawn darkness. Eleanor pulled in smoothly, parking between 2 large semi-trucks as instructed. The following car drove past slowly, continuing down the road. They'll circle back, William said, checking his burner phone. We have maybe 3 minutes. A tall woman in a trucker's uniform approached their car, her gait purposeful. Car trouble? She asked, loudly enough for anyone watching to hear. Yeah, battery's acting up, William replied with the coded response. Any chance of a jump? The woman nodded, already moving toward her truck. Pull around back. Got the cables there. Eleanor drove carefully between the parked semis, following. The woman's truck to a loading area behind the main building. 3 other trucks were parked there, their drivers seemingly engaged in routine activities. Right on time, the woman said when they stopped. I'm Sarah. Michael said you might need a shell game tonight. William lifted a still sleeping Lily from the back seat, while Eleanor grabbed their essential bags. Sarah led them to one of the other trucks, its engine already running. Mike here will take you the next 100 miles, she explained, gesturing to a grandfatherly man in the cab. Your car will be driven in the opposite direction by one of our team, with someone who matches your description. Should keep your friends busy for a while. Eleanor climbed into the truck's cab, helping William settle Lily on the small bed in the back. Through the windows, they could see their car being driven away by someone wearing a wig similar to Eleanor's hair. The device? William asked, holding up the fob. Sarah nodded. Hit it once we're all in motion. It'll scramble any tracking signals in the area. By the time they figure out which vehicle you're in, you'll be long gone. Mike pulled the truck out smoothly, taking a different exit than their car had used. In the side mirror, Eleanor saw 2 more trucks pull out, all heading in different directions. Old shell game, Mike explained with a gentle smile. Used to do this kind of work. Back in the day. Your friend Michael knows how to call in the right favors. Lily stirred slightly but didn't wake, cuddled safely in her blanket with Mr. Buttons. Eleanor reached back to stroke her daughter's hair, marveling at her ability to sleep through their cloak and dagger escape. Michael said you folks are in a tight spot, Mike commented, keeping his voice low. Don't worry about the details, we've all got past we'd rather not discuss. But I should tell you about the next handoff point. William checked the burner phone again. No new messages, which was probably good news. How many more changes before we reach New Hampshire? 2 more, Mike replied. Different vehicles each time, different routes. By sunrise, you'll be approaching the safe house from a direction nobody could have predicted. Your friend Michael thinks of everything. Eleanor watched the pre-dawn landscape roll past, so different from their suburban life just 24 hours ago. Thank you, she said softly. All of you. Taking these risks for strangers. Mike's weathered face creased in a kind smile. Ma'am, in my experience, good people sometimes find themselves in bad situations. Helping folks like you get to safety, keeping families together, that's payment enough. A comfortable silence fell in the truck's cab, broken only by the soft rumble of the engine and Lily's quiet breathing. William held Eleanor's hand, both of them watching for any signs of pursuit. After about an hour, Mike spoke again. Coming up on the first handoff, you'll like Jenny. She runs a mobile library service as her cover. Nobody looks twice at a library, and crossing state lines. Eleanor smiled at the ingenuity of it all. Every step had been carefully planned, a network of ordinary people doing extraordinary things to help them escape. It gave her hope that despite the powerful forces apparently aligned against them, there were still good people willing to stand up and help. The burner phone vibrated with a new message from Michael. IFS making moves. Evidence suggests bigger. Play in motion. Keep moving. We'll explain everything at Safe House. Trust no one but verified contacts. William showed Eleanor the message, their eyes meeting in shared concern. Whatever they had stumbled into by digging up those briefcases, it was clearly much bigger than their family's secret. The question was, would they be able to stay ahead of it long enough to understand the truth? In the soft glow of computer screens, Michael Thompson methodically pieced together a puzzle 15 years in the making. His office had become a command center, with multiple monitors displaying different aspects of his investigation. Benjamin had come through with the International Financial Solutions Incorporation documents, and what they revealed was staggering. This can't be right, he muttered, cross-referencing dates and names. The timing doesn't make sense unless... His thought was interrupted by a priority alert from one of his monitoring programs. Someone was attempting to access his personal files, not the old firm's servers this time, but his current system. Michael smiled grimly. He'd been expecting this. Instead of blocking the intrusion, he allowed it to continue, watching as his trap program traced the attack back to its source. The results confirmed his suspicions. The hack was being routed through multiple servers, but ultimately originated from a private network registered to a subsidiary of International Financial Solutions. His phone rang. Benjamin again. Michael, you need to see this. Remember that board member I was looking into, Henry Anderson? He was on IFS's board when they acquired our client list. What about him? Michael asked, already pulling up Anderson's file on one of his screens. He didn't exist before 2005. The entire background is fabricated, expertly done but fake. And here's the kicker. He disappeared completely 3 months after Margaret left. Michael sat up straighter. Send me everything you have. And Benjamin, be careful what you put in writing. They're probing my systems right now. After ending the call, Michael opened a secure messaging program to contact one of his sources in the banking industry. Within minutes, he had confirmation of something he'd begun to suspect. International Financial Solutions was preparing for a major move. They'd liquidated significant assets over the past week, consolidating their resources. But for what? Michael wondered aloud, studying the pattern of their recent acquisitions. Each company they'd bought had connections to their old firm's client list, yes, but there was something else, something he was missing. He pulled up Margaret's employment file from their old firm. Her hiring had seemed perfectly normal at the time. Excellent credentials, stellar references, impressive interview. But now, looking at it with fresh eyes and 15 years of experience, the references, he muttered. Why didn't I check them more thoroughly? A deep dive into Margaret's supposed employment history revealed more carefully constructed fiction. She hadn't just been placed at their firm as a spy. Her entire professional identity had been crafted years in advance. The level of planning and resources required for such an operation was mind-boggling. His secure phone chimed with an update from his surveillance team watching the Thompson house. 2 more suspicious vehicles had driven by, but something was different this time. They weren't just taking photos. They were setting up surveillance equipment in nearby houses. They're not just looking for William, Michael realized. They think he'll try to contact someone at the house. He quickly sent a warning to the burner phones he'd given William and Eleanor. House under heavy surveillance. Don't attempt any contact with neighbors. They're watching everything. A new email arrived from Benjamin, heavily encrypted. Inside was a series of photographs from International Financial Solutions corporate events over the years. Michael scrutinized each one carefully until he found what Benjamin had wanted him to see. In a photo from their annual gala 11 years ago, barely visible in the background, was a face he recognized. Henry Anderson, the board member with the fake background, speaking with another man. Michael zoomed in on the second figure, his blood running cold as recognition struck. No, he whispered. It can't be. The man Anderson was speaking with had been one of their firm's earliest clients, a quiet, unassuming investor who had entrusted them with a modest portfolio. But he had pulled all his investments out just weeks before their collapse with no explanation. Michael's fingers flew over his keyboard, pulling up everything he could find about this former client. Most of his records had been destroyed in the firm's collapse, but Michael had maintained private copies of everything. As he dug deeper, a pattern began to emerge. The client's investment withdrawals had perfectly coincided with Margaret's increased access to sensitive company information, and his seemingly modest portfolio had been a front for much larger transactions, all carefully hidden within the noise of normal trading activity. They didn't just want to destroy us, Michael said aloud, the full picture finally becoming clear. We were a test run, a proof of concept for something bigger. His computer chimed again, another attempt to breach his security. But this time, something was different. The attack was more aggressive, more sophisticated. Multiple alerts began flashing across his screens. Michael quickly initiated his emergency protocols, sending his accumulated evidence to secure locations. He had barely finished when his screens went dark, then lit up with a single message. "Hello, Michael. We need to talk about William." Michael stared at the message, his mind racing. After 15 years, the puppet masters were finally showing themselves. The question was, why now? And more importantly, what did they really want? His normal phone rang. An unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. "Mr. Sullivan," a distorted voice said, "I believe you have something that belongs to us, something Margaret Thompson was supposed to secure 15 years ago." The morning sun was just beginning to paint the New Hampshire mountains in shades of gold when the library van turned onto a narrow dirt road. Lily had finally woken up during their last vehicle change, and rather than being frightened by their unusual mode of transport, she had been delighted to discover they were traveling in a mobile library. "Look, Mom," she exclaimed, pointing to the rows of books lining the van's interior. "It's like a treasure chest of stories." Jenny, their latest driver, had kindly allowed Lily to borrow a book for the final leg of their journey, which had kept the little girl happily occupied. Eleanor watched her daughter reading peacefully, marveling at her resilience and ability to find joy even in the midst of their escape. "Almost there," Jenny announced quietly. "Your grandmother's house is just around this bend." The dirt road curved through a thick stand of oak trees before opening onto a clearing. There, nestled against the backdrop of the mountains, stood Eleanor's grandmother's house. The old Victorian home, with its wraparound porch and faded blue paint, looked exactly as Eleanor remembered from childhood summers spent here. "It's like a fairy tale house," Lily gasped, pressing her face against the window. William squeezed Eleanor's hand. "Your grandmother had good taste in hideouts." The van pulled up to the house slowly, following Michael's security protocols. Jenny made 2 complete circles of the property before parking, checking for any signs of surveillance or unexpected visitors. "Looks clear," she reported, consulting a small device similar to the one Michael had given them earlier. "No electronic signatures except the house's normal systems." They unloaded quickly, Jenny helping them carry their bags to the porch. "There's a panic button under the main desk in the study," she informed them quietly. "Michael had it installed last night. Any problems, hit that button and we'll have people here within 15 minutes. Eleanor hugged the librarian gratefully. "Thank you for everything." Jenny smiled warmly. "Just doing my part. Besides, any enemy of international financial solutions is a friend of mine. They foreclosed on my sister's business during their expansion 5 years ago." After Jenny departed, they entered the house using the key hidden in the fake rock Eleanor remembered from her childhood visits. The interior was exactly as she remembered, though a thin layer of dust covered everything. The electricity was on. Michael's people had arranged that, and the pantry had been stocked with basic supplies. "Can I explore?" Lily asked excitedly. "This is way better than treasure hunting in our old yard." William and Eleanor exchanged glances. "Stay inside the house for now, Princess," William said gently. "We need to make sure everything's safe first." While Lily investigated the ground floor, William and Eleanor did a thorough security check, following Michael's instructions. They found the panic button Jenny had mentioned, along with several other security upgrades Michael had apparently arranged. Reinforced locks on all windows and doors, motion sensors covering the surrounding grounds, and a sophisticated communication system hidden in what looked like an old radio. They had just finished their inspection when the secure phone buzzed with a message from Michael. "Had to go dark. Compromised. Don't respond to any messages, even from this number. We'll send verification code Charlie's Sunrise when safe. Trust no one else." "What do you think happened?" Eleanor asked, worry creasing her brow. William ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "They must have found him. But Michael is smart. He'll have contingency plans." "Mom, Dad!" Lily's voice called from upstairs. "I found a secret door." They rushed upstairs to find Lily standing in front of a bookcase in the master bedroom. She was right. There was a slight gap visible between the bookcase and the wall, suggesting it could swing open. "Your grandmother never mentioned a hidden room," William said, examining the mechanism. "She was full of surprises," Eleanor replied, remembering the strong, independent woman who had raised her after her own parents had passed away. "She used to say, 'Every good house needs its secrets.'" The bookcase swung open easily, revealing a small room lined with filing cabinets and old ham radio equipment. But what caught their attention was a more modern addition, a sleek laptop computer, its screen glowing with a waiting message. "Eleanor, if you're reading this, you've found my study. The filing cabinets contain documents I've been collecting for years about international financial solutions and their activities. Your friend Michael contacted me last week. We have a mutual interest in exposing their operations. Everything you need is in the bottom drawer. Love, Grandma Margaret." Eleanor stared at the message in shock. She knew? All this time? "Look at the date on these files," William said, opening one of the cabinets. She's been tracking international financial solutions for over 20 years, long before they came after our firm. Lily peered around them into the hidden room. Is this another treasure room, like our special secret in the backyard? Eleanor knelt down to her daughter's level. Something like that, sweetheart. But this treasure is even more special. It's going to help us make things right. As if in response to her words, the laptop chimed with an incoming message. The sender's name made both William and Eleanor catch their breath. Michael Sullivan, with a subject line reading Charlie's Sunrise. Michael Sullivan sat in a small coffee shop in a nondescript strip mall, his laptop open before him. After receiving the threatening phone call, he had initiated his emergency protocols, physically relocating while maintaining digital contact with his network of allies. The coffee shop was one of several pre-arranged safe locations, chosen for its excellent sightlines and multiple escape routes. The distorted voice from the phone call still echoed in his mind. Something Margaret Thompson was supposed to secure 15 years ago. The implication was clear. Whatever game International Financial Solutions was playing, it went far beyond simple corporate espionage. His secure messaging system chimed with an encrypted communication from Margaret Thompson, Eleanor's grandmother and, as he had recently discovered, a longtime investigator of International Financial Solutions activities. Michael received. Confirmation they've reached the house. My files should fill in the missing pieces. Pay special attention to the Davidson account from 1999. Michael quickly accessed the encrypted files Margaret had shared earlier. The Davidson account had seemed unremarkable at first glance, a modest investment portfolio managed by International Financial Solutions in the late 1990s. But as he dug deeper, cross-referencing with Margaret's meticulous notes, a pattern emerged. Davidson wasn't just another client. His investment patterns matched perfectly with a series of corporate acquisitions that had reshaped entire industry sectors. Each time Davidson invested in a company, that company would experience mysterious difficulties within months, forcing them to sell at a fraction of their value. And each time, International Financial Solutions was perfectly positioned to acquire the struggling business. It wasn't just about money, Michael muttered, pieces clicking into place. They were systematically gaining control of key industries. But why? His phone buzzed with a text from Benjamin. Found something in the old records. Margaret had a private office we never knew about. Maintenance logs show weekly visits from someone matching Anderson's description. Michael's fingers flew over his keyboard, pulling up Margaret's personnel file again. There it was, a requisition for private office space, approved without question, despite her relatively junior position. The official reason listed was compliance documentation storage, but Michael now suspected it had served a very different purpose. Another message arrived, this one from one of his banking industry contacts. IFS making moves in tech sector, 3 major acquisitions pending, all companies involved in quantum computing research. Michael sat back, his coffee growing cold as he processed this new information. International Financial Solutions wasn't just acquiring companies, they were gathering very specific technological capabilities. The pattern stretched back decades, long before they had targeted his and William's firm. A new email arrived, heavily encrypted, from an anonymous source. You're asking the right questions, Mr. Sullivan, but you're running out of time. Check the pattern of solar panel manufacturing acquisitions in 2019. Michael hesitated. The message hadn't come through his usual secure channels, but something about it rang true. He pulled up the data, and his blood ran cold. International Financial Solutions had systematically acquired controlling interests in over 60% of the world's solar panel manufacturing capacity, all through seemingly unrelated shell companies. Similar patterns emerged in other green energy sectors, quantum computing research and advanced materials manufacturing. They're not building a business empire, Michael realized. They're building infrastructure, but for what? His laptop chimed again, a message from Margaret's secure computer at the New Hampshire house, relayed through their encrypted channel. The subject line contained their agreed-upon verification code, Charlie's Sunrise. Inside was a single document, a scholarly paper from 1995, written by a physicist whose name Michael didn't recognize. The paper discussed theoretical applications of quantum computing in energy distribution systems. Most of it was beyond Michael's comprehension, but one passage stood out. With sufficient control over energy production and distribution systems, combined with quantum computing capabilities, it would be theoretically possible to implement a global resource management system that could transcend traditional economic models. Michael's heart raced as he began connecting the dots. International financial solutions acquisitions weren't random. They were methodically gathering the components needed to build something unprecedented, a system that could control not just financial markets, but the very infrastructure of modern civilization. His phone buzzed with another message from the anonymous source. "Now you understand. Margaret wasn't supposed to just destroy your firm. She was supposed to secure William's prototype algorithm, the one he developed for predictive market analysis. The one he never shared with anyone, not even you." Michael's hands shook slightly as he typed a response. "Who are you?" The reply came instantly. "Someone who helped design the system they're building. Someone who realized too late what it could really do. Find William's algorithm before they do. It's the key to everything." Before Michael could respond, his laptop screen flickered. Warning messages flashed across his security programs. Someone had broken through his defenses. A new message appeared. "Time to finish our earlier conversation, Mr. Sullivan. In person." Michael slammed the laptop shut, but not before sending one final message to the secure computer in New Hampshire. "William's algorithm is what they want. Don't let them find it. Trust Margaret's files. Everything you need to know is there." As he quickly gathered his belongings, Michael noticed two men in dark suits entering the coffee shop. They moved with the practiced efficiency of professionals, scanning the room with calculated precision. Michael smiled grimly. After 15 years of investigating, he finally had the truth. Now he just had to stay alive long enough to share it. Eleanor stared at the message from Michael on the laptop screen, her grandmother's hidden study suddenly feeling much smaller. William leaned over her shoulder, reading Michael's warning about his algorithm. "I don't understand," Eleanor said, turning to her husband. "What algorithm? You never mentioned anything about this." William's face had gone pale. "Because I never thought it was important. It was just a side project I was working on before everything fell apart. A theoretical model for predicting market behavior based on social patterns and resource distribution. But it was more than that, wasn't it?" A new voice joined the conversation. They turned to find Lily standing in the doorway, holding an old leather-bound journal. "Grandma Margaret wrote about it in here." Eleanor gently took the journal from her daughter, recognizing her grandmother's elegant handwriting. The entry was dated just 3 months ago. William's algorithm wasn't just about predicting markets. He had unknowingly created something far more powerful. A system capable of understanding and influencing the complex web of human behavior through resource management. In the right hands, it could revolutionize how we distribute global resources. In the wrong hands— "Lily, sweetheart," Eleanor said carefully, "where did you find this?" "In the treasure chest under the window seat," Lily replied proudly. "There are lots more books like it. Was Grandma Margaret a treasure hunter too?" William took the journal, flipping through its pages with growing concern. She wasn't just tracking international financial solutions. She understood what they were trying to build. "Look at this." The journal contained detailed notes about IFS's acquisitions over the years, along with technical diagrams and mathematical formulas that seemed to build on William's original work. "I never finished it," William said quietly. "The basic concept worked, but I couldn't solve the quantum processing requirements. The computing power needed didn't exist 15 years ago. But it does now," Eleanor realized. "That's why they're acquiring quantum computing companies. They're trying to complete what you started." The laptop chimed with another message from Michael. "Moving to backup location. Margaret's research confirms suspicions. William's algorithm plus quantum computing plus infrastructure control, global resource manipulation. Don't let them find the original code. Will contact when safe." Millie had wandered over to one of the filing cabinets, pulling open a drawer with surprising ease. Look, more treasure. Inside, they found dozens of files detailing international financial solutions activities over the past 2 decades. But what caught William's attention was a thin manila envelope marked simply Margaret's office. Inside was a single photograph showing a whiteboard covered in complex equations. William's hand trembled as he recognized his own handwriting. "This was in my private office," he whispered. "The night before everything fell apart. I'd finally had a breakthrough with the algorithm's core function. I wrote it all down, planning to show you the next day, Michael." But Margaret got to it first, Eleanor concluded. "That's what they wanted all along. Not just the firm's collapse, but your research." "They got the whiteboard," William said, studying the photo, "but not everything. The key components, the parts that made it actually work, those were only in here." He tapped his temple. "I never wrote down the complete solution. It didn't feel right, having that much potential power exist in physical form." Eleanor's eyes widened with understanding. "That's why they're surfacing now. All these years they've been gathering the pieces they needed, building the infrastructure, but they still can't make it work without your complete algorithm." "Mum! Dad!" Lily called from deeper in the filing cabinet. "There's something weird. In here it's making noises." They rushed over to find Lily pointing at what appeared to be an old radio transmitter hidden behind the files. Its display was active, showing a series of numbers scrolling past. William's breath caught. "That's no radio, that's a quantum key generator. Your grandmother was monitoring their quantum computing tests." The device suddenly stopped scrolling, displaying a single message. "Protocol Alpha initiated. Hub facilities activated. Timeline accelerated." "What does that mean?" Eleanor asked, but William was already moving, gathering specific files from the cabinet. "It means they're done waiting," he replied grimly. "They're going to try to force the algorithm to work with what they have, and if they get it wrong..." He was interrupted by a high-pitched tone from the laptop. A new message appeared, not from Michael this time, but from an anonymous sender. "Dr. Thompson, your algorithm was brilliant but incomplete. We've spent 15 years trying to fill in the gaps. Now we're out of time. The system is unstable without your core equations. Help us fix it or watch it tear apart everything it touches. You have 12 hours to respond." The message included an image, a live satellite feed showing their old house, where dozens of people were now gathered methodically searching the property. "They're not just looking for the money anymore," William said quietly. "They're looking for any trace of my research, and they won't stop until they find it." Lily hugged Mr. Buttons tighter, sensing the tension in the room. "Is this like in my book where the treasure hunters become the bad guys?" Eleanor pulled her daughter close. "Something like that, sweetheart. But remember what happens in those stories? The good guys always find a way to win." William stared at the quantum key generator's display, his mind racing. Maybe there's a third option. Not helping them complete the algorithm, but not letting it destroy everything either. "What do you mean?" "Your grandmother didn't just collect information," William said, gesturing to the sophisticated equipment hidden in the study. "She was building something too, something to counter their system when it finally came online." The laptop chimed. Again, another message from Michael, this time with an attachment. "Found Margaret's contingency plan. William, she finished what you started, but differently. Check the basement, look for the blueprints." The basement of Margaret's Victorian house was unlike anything they expected. Behind a false wall, accessed by a hidden panel beneath the stairs, they discovered what could only be described as a state-of-the-art research facility. Banks of computers hummed quietly, their screens displaying complex data streams. The walls were covered in whiteboards filled with equations that made William's eyes widen in recognition. "She took my original concept," he breathed, studying the formulas, but she changed its fundamental architecture. Instead of controlling resource distribution, she designed it to maintain balance, Eleanor finished, reading from one of her grandmother's notebooks. She saw what International Financial Solutions was building and created a countermeasure. Lily wandered the room, taking everything in with wide-eyed wonder. Grandma Margaret had the best secret hideout ever. William's attention was caught by a series of blueprints spread across a large table. They showed detailed plans for a distributed network of quantum computing nodes, each one designed to interface with existing infrastructure systems. "Your grandmother was brilliant," he told Eleanor. "She didn't just theorize, she built a working system. Look at these power consumption readings. She's been running live tests for years." The secure laptop they'd brought from upstairs chimed with an incoming message. Michael had sent coordinates and a simple instruction. "Check these locations. Margaret's network is already in place. We just need to activate it." Eleanor pulled up a map on one of the basement computers. The coordinates matched seemingly random locations across the globe: small server farms, solar installations, and satellite uplink facilities. She didn't just build a counter to their system, Eleanor realized. She built it inside their own network. All these facilities are owned by international financial solutions shell companies. "Hiding in plain sight," William said admiringly. "They've been so focused on gathering infrastructure, they never noticed she was reprogramming it right under their noses." Lily had discovered a small desk in the corner, clearly set up for a child. It held coloring books, puzzles, and a framed photo of a much younger Eleanor working on what looked like simple coding exercises with her grandmother. "She was training you," William said softly. "All those summers you spent here as a child, she was preparing you to understand this system." Eleanor picked up the photo, memories flooding back. "The puzzles she gave me, the games we played, they weren't just games, were they? They were teaching me how to think about resource distribution and system balance." Their discussion was interrupted by a series of urgent beeps from the quantum key generator they'd brought downstairs. The display showed a new message scrolling. Across its screen, IFS system initializing, quantum network unstable, cascading failures detected in power grid nodes, time to full system collapse, 10 hours. "They're trying to force the algorithm to work," William said grimly. "Without the proper core equations, their system is tearing itself apart, and it's taking critical infrastructure with it." The secure laptop chimed again. This time, the message was from the anonymous source who had contacted Michael. "Dr. Thompson, the system is failing. Our attempts to stabilize it are making things worse. We didn't understand the full implications of your work. Margaret Thompson did. Please, help us shut it down before it's too late." Eleanor studied the basement facility with new understanding. "This isn't just a research lab, it's a control center. Grandma Margaret built everything we need to counter their system. But can we figure out how to use it in time?" William asked, overwhelmed by the complexity of Margaret's work. Lily tugged on Eleanor's sleeve, pointing to the child's desk. "Look what I found, Mom. It's like my diary, but it's Grandma's writing." The notebook Lily had discovered was filled with simple, clear instructions, a user manual written in Margaret's elegant hand, breaking down the complex system into understandable steps. "To my dearest Eleanor," the first page read, "if you're reading this, then the time has come to restore balance. Everything you need to know is in these pages. Trust your instincts. You've been preparing for this your whole life." Eleanor's hands trembled slightly as she turned the pages. The instructions were written in the same way Margaret had taught her to solve puzzles as a child, breaking complex problems into manageable pieces, finding patterns, maintaining balance. "I can do this," she said quietly. Then with more confidence, "I can do this." William squeezed her shoulder supportively. "We can do this. Your grandmother's system combined with my understanding of the original algorithm, maybe we can not just stop their system, but fix what it's already damaged." The quantum key generator beeped again. "Time to system collapse, 9 hours, 45 minutes. Lily looked up from her own notebook, where she'd been drawing what she called a treasure map of the basement. "In my stories, this is usually when the heroes have to work together to save everyone." Eleanor and William shared a determined look. They had less than 10 hours to understand and activate Margaret's countermeasure system before International Financial Solutions' unstable algorithm caused a global infrastructure collapse. The secure laptop chimed one final time. A message from Michael. "In position with backup team, ready when you are. Let's finish what Margaret started." Eleanor sat at her grandmother's workstation, fingers flying over the keyboard as she input initialization sequences from Margaret's notebook. The familiar logic patterns she'd learned as a child were coming back to her, each step triggering memories of summers spent solving her grandmother's increasingly complex puzzles. "Power grid stabilization protocols engaged," she announced, watching as green confirmation lights began appearing on one of the monitoring screens. "But we're still seeing critical fluctuations in the Asian network nodes." William stood at the central whiteboard, rapidly transcribing equations from memory. His original algorithm was flowing back to him, but now he could see how it intersected with Margaret's modifications. "The quantum processing load is still too high. We need to redistribute it across more nodes, or the whole system will overload." Lily had been assigned the important task of organizing Margaret's notebooks in chronological order, creating a timeline they could reference. "Mom, I found something about quantum nodes. Grandma Margaret drew pictures." Eleanor quickly retrieved the notebook Lily had discovered. Margaret's clear diagrams showed exactly how the quantum processing load could be balanced across multiple smaller nodes instead of requiring massive centralized processors. "That's brilliant," William breathed, studying the designs. Instead of trying to brute force the calculations through their centralized quantum computers, she created a distributed network. Each node only handles what it can safely process. The secure laptop chimed with an update from Michael. "IFS implementing emergency protocols. They're trying to force more power to their quantum processors. Systems failing in South America. Grid instability spreading." Eleanor pulled up the monitoring system for the South American nodes. "They're going to burn out their processors if they keep pushing them like this. The power surges alone could cause widespread blackouts." "Can we activate Margaret's nodes in that region?" William asked, already calculating power distribution formulas. "Working on it," Eleanor replied, her fingers dancing across multiple keyboards. "But we need access codes for each facility. Lily, honey, look for anything in Grandma's notebooks about facility codes or access protocols." Lily nodded seriously, understanding the importance of her role. She began methodically checking each notebook, looking for the specific information they needed. The quantum key generator beeped urgently. "Time to system collapse, 8 hours, 15 minutes. Critical failures detected in 17% of network nodes." William's phone buzzed with a text from Benjamin. "IFS executives calling emergency board meeting. Something big's happening at their headquarters." "They're panicking," William said grimly. "Their system is failing faster than they expected, and they don't understand why their brute force approach isn't working." "Mom," Lily called out excitedly, "I found a notebook with lots of numbers, and it has pictures of buildings that look like the ones on your computer." The notebook Lily had discovered was exactly what they needed, a complete list of access codes for Margaret's distributed quantum network. But as Eleanor began inputting the codes, she noticed something strange. "These aren't just random codes," she said slowly. "They're based on the puzzle solutions she used to give me. Each one corresponds to a specific challenge she taught me to solve." William looked up from his equations. "She wasn't just teaching you problem-solving skills. She was embedding the actual access codes in your memory through those puzzles." Eleanor closed her eyes, remembering the long summer days spent with her grandmother, solving increasingly complex challenges. Each solution had seemed like a game at the time, but now she could see the deeper pattern. "The lighthouse puzzle," she murmured, her fingers moving automatically across the keyboard. It was about distributing power to different parts of the coastline while maintaining optimal coverage. That's the access pattern for the coastal nodes. The monitoring screens lit up as new nodes came online, their processing power seamlessly integrating into Margaret's distributed network. The system began stabilizing, power fluctuations decreasing as the load was properly balanced. The secure laptop chimed again, another message from Michael. "Something's happening. IFS's quantum cores are showing unusual activity patterns. Be careful. They might be trying something desperate." As if in response, alarms began blaring. From multiple monitors, the quantum key generator's display flashed urgent warnings. "Unauthorized access detected. External system attempting to force integration. Warning, hostile quantum entanglement detected. They're trying to hijack Grandma's network," Lily exclaimed, understanding the danger even if she didn't grasp the technical details. William's face paled as he realized what was happening. They're not trying to hijack it. They're trying to merge their failing system with Margaret's network. If they succeed, they could corrupt the entire quantum infrastructure. Eleanor's hands flew across the keyboards with renewed urgency. All those years of puzzle solving with her grandmother had prepared her for this moment. Each challenge had taught her not just how to solve problems, but how to protect systems from outside interference. "Not on my watch," she muttered, implementing the security protocols hidden within Margaret's design. Grandma Margaret taught me more than just access codes. She taught me how to be a guardian. The basement command center had transformed into a battlefield, albeit one where the weapons were keystrokes and quantum algorithms rather than traditional arms. Eleanor worked at lightning speed, implementing Margaret's defensive protocols while William coordinated with Michael through the secure laptop. "Their quantum cores are attempting forced synchronization," William reported, studying the incoming data streams. "They're trying to use their massive processing power to overwhelm our distributed network. But that's not how quantum networks are supposed to work," Lily piped up from her spot at the child's desk, where she was still organizing notebooks. "Right? Grandma Margaret wrote that balance is more important than power." Eleanor and William exchanged surprised looks at their daughter's insight. "She's right," Eleanor said, fingers still flying over the keyboards. "Margaret's system isn't about raw processing power. It's about harmony and balance." The quantum key generator's display updated with new warnings. "Time to system collapse. 7 hours 45 minutes. Warning, quantum entanglement attacks detected in European nodes." Michael's latest message appeared on the secure laptop. "IFS deploying some kind of new quantum protocol. My contacts inside their headquarters say they're activating something called Project Eclipse." William's face went pale. "Eclipse? That was the theoretical extension of my original algorithm, the part I could never get to work because it required impossible amounts of processing power." "What does it do?" Eleanor asked, not taking her eyes off her monitors as she defended against another wave of synchronization attempts. "It was designed to create a cascading effect in resource distribution networks," William explained, quickly sketching out equations on a nearby whiteboard. "The idea was to optimize resource allocation by temporarily creating controlled scarcity in specific areas." "But without the proper control equations," Eleanor began. "The scarcity wouldn't be controlled at all," William finished. "It would spread exponentially, causing systematic failures across all connected networks." Lily looked up from a notebook she'd been studying. "Is that like in my game, when one broken pipe makes all the other pipes burst too?" "Exactly like that, Princess," William said, impressed once again by his daughter's ability to grasp complex concepts through simple analogies. "And right now, they're about to break a lot of pipes." The secure laptop chimed with an urgent message from Michael. "They're starting to lose control. Power outages reported in major cities, transportation systems failing. You need to activate Margaret's countermeasure now." Eleanor pulled up Margaret's master control interface, her mind racing through all the puzzles and challenges her grandmother had taught her. The lighthouse puzzle wasn't just about power distribution, she realized. It was teaching me how to create stable points in a network, nodes that could resist cascading failures. "Like breakwaters," Lily exclaimed. "In my book about lighthouses, they use breakwaters to stop big waves from destroying everything." William's eyes lit up with understanding. "That's exactly what Margaret designed. Not just a competing system, but a network of quantum breakwaters that could stop the cascade effect of the Harmony Project." Eleanor began implementing the Lighthouse Protocol, her childhood lessons guiding her hands. On the monitoring screens, they could see Margaret's nodes activating in precise patterns, creating stable points throughout the global network. The quantum key generator's display flickered. "Warning, Harmony Project initiated, cascading failures detected. Time to total system collapse, 7 hours. "It's working," Eleanor announced, watching as Margaret's quantum breakwaters began absorbing and neutralizing the cascade effect. "The stable points are holding. But what?" William asked, noting the concern in her voice. "We're still seeing critical power fluctuations in the Asian nodes," Eleanor replied. "The breakwaters are holding, but the strain on the quantum cores is increasing. We need more processing power to maintain stability. Lily suddenly jumped up, waving a notebook excitedly. Mom, Dad, look what I found. Grandma Margaret wrote about a secret backup system. The notebook contained detailed plans for what Margaret had called the legacy protocol, a final layer of defense hidden within her network. But activating it would require something they didn't have: direct access to international financial solutions quantum cores. The secure laptop lit up with a new message, this time from the anonymous source within IFS. The Harmony project is beyond our control now. The cascade effect is spreading faster than predicted. We need to merge our systems completely, give you direct access to our quantum cores. It's the only way to stop this. It's a trap, William said immediately. They tried to force a merge. Earlier, this could be another attempt to corrupt Margaret's network. Or, Eleanor said slowly, studying the legacy protocol documentation, they might finally understand what Margaret knew all along. Real power isn't about control, it's about cooperation. The quantum key generator beeped urgently. Time to system collapse, 6 hours, 45 minutes. Legacy protocol activation window closing. They had to make a decision: trust their opponents and risk everything, or watch as both systems tore themselves apart. The basement command center hummed with nervous energy as Eleanor, William, and Lily huddled around the main console. The decision to trust their opponents wasn't just about merging systems anymore. It was about believing in Margaret's vision of cooperation over control. "Remember what Grandma wrote about balance?" Lily said, holding up one of Margaret's notebooks. "She said sometimes you have to trust the other side of the scale." Eleanor squeezed her daughter's shoulder, marveling at how Lily kept finding the perfect pieces of wisdom in Margaret's notes. "She's right. Mom always taught me that true balance requires all parts of the system working together." The secure laptop chimed with an urgent message from Michael. "Major power fluctuations detected in Asian power grids. Hospital backup systems. Failing? You need to make a decision now." William studied the legacy protocol documentation, his mind racing through the possibilities. If we do this, if we give them access to Margaret's network while taking control of their quantum cores, there's no going back. Either it works perfectly, or both systems collapse. "Like when you're building a house of cards," Lily observed. "You can't just put the pieces together. They have to support each other." Eleanor's fingers hovered over the keyboard as she made her decision. Margaret didn't build this system to win a fight. She built it to restore balance. We have to trust that. She began implementing the legacy protocol, her hands steady as she typed in the complex series of commands. On the main screen, a new interface appeared. A direct connection portal to International Financial Solutions Quantum Processing Network. "Ready for quantum core integration," she announced. "Lily, watch the stability readings on your monitor. William, stand by to implement the merged algorithms." The quantum key generator displayed an ominous countdown. Time to system collapse, 6 hours, 15 minutes. Warning, legacy protocol initialization detected. Proceed with caution. The secure laptop lit up with the anonymous source's response. "Integration protocols ready on our end, but you should know, I'm not just any IFS employee. I was there when it all began. I helped Margaret access William's original research." William's hands froze over his keyboard. "Who are you?" "Benjamin Anderson, the person who convinced Margaret that controlling global resources was more important than any individual company or relationship. I was wrong. We were all wrong. Margaret Thompson saw what we couldn't, that true power lies in balance, not control." Eleanor exchanged a meaningful look with William before typing her response. "Then help us prove her right." The next few minutes were a blur of coordinated activity. As Eleanor initiated the legacy protocol, William began feeding his original algorithm into the merged system, while Lily called out stability readings from her monitoring station. "Quantum cores synchronizing," Eleanor reported, watching as the two systems began their delicate dance of integration. "Power fluctuations stabilizing in Asian grid nodes." "Breakwater network holding steady," Lily added, her young voice clear and confident. "The bad waves aren't getting through anymore." William's fingers flew across his keyboard, implementing the final pieces of his algorithm. Not the version that had been stolen, but the complete solution he'd kept in his mind all these years. Original algorithm deploying. Anderson, are you seeing this? Yes, came the response. It's beautiful. The way it integrates with Margaret's system. It's like they were designed to work together all along. The quantum key generator's display began showing new information. Legacy protocol active. Quantum network stabilization at 47% and rising. Time to full integration, 15 minutes. Eleanor pulled up the global monitoring system, watching as points of light began appearing across the world map, each one representing a successfully stabilized node in the merged network. The cascade failures were not just stopping, they were being reversed. "Mom, look!" Lily pointed excitedly at her monitor. "The numbers are all turning green." The secure laptop chimed with a message from Michael. "Whatever you're doing, it's working. Power grids stabilizing across Europe and Asia, transportation systems coming back online." But just as hope began to rise, new alarms started blaring. The quantum key generator flashed an urgent warning. Critical instability detected in primary quantum cores. Emergency shutdown imminent. "No!" Eleanor's fingers raced across the keyboard. "The main processors can't handle the integration load. We're going to lose everything." "Not everything," came Anderson's response. "Margaret's notebooks, there's one more protocol, one she designed specifically for this moment. Check the last page of the final volume." Lily was already flipping through the notebook she'd been studying. "Found it? It's called the Phoenix Protocol." William read over her shoulder, his eyes widening. "It's not just about saving the system," he realized. "It's about letting it transform into something new." The quantum key generator's warning became more urgent. "Primary core shutdown in 5 minutes, legacy protocol failing." Eleanor looked at the Phoenix Protocol specifications, understanding dawning in her eyes. Margaret knew this would happen. She knew we'd have to let the old system burn so something new could rise from its ashes. "Just like my stories," Lily exclaimed. "When everything seems lost, that's when the real magic happens." With time running out and the fate of global infrastructure hanging in the balance, Eleanor prepared to implement Margaret's final protocol. But as her fingers moved toward the keyboard, a new message appeared on the secure laptop, one that would change everything. They thought they knew about Margaret's master plan. The message on the secure laptop was from Margaret herself, dated just 1 month ago. "My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, then the Phoenix Protocol is about to begin. What comes next will seem impossible, but remember everything I taught you about balance and transformation. The greatest changes often look like destruction at first. Trust in what I built. Trust in what you learned. Most importantly, trust in yourself." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears as she read her grandmother's words. All those years of preparation, all those carefully designed puzzles and lessons had led to this moment. "Primary core shut down in 3 minutes, the quantum key generator warned. Phoenix Protocol activation window closing." "What exactly does the Phoenix Protocol do?" William asked, studying the complex diagrams in Margaret's final notebook. "It's not about saving the old systems," Eleanor explained, her fingers already moving across the keyboard with renewed purpose. "It's about using their combined energy to create something entirely new, a completely decentralized quantum network that can't be controlled or corrupted by any single entity." Lily pointed to a drawing in the notebook. "Look, Grandma Margaret drew a picture of a phoenix rising from a bunch of broken computers. She knew the old machines had to break for the new ones to work." The secure laptop chimed with urgent messages from multiple sources. Michael. "International Financial Solutions headquarters in chaos. Board members fleeing. Something's happening to their quantum cores." Anderson. "The energy readings are off the charts. If we don't contain this, the backlash could fry every connected system." Benjamin. "Margaret's old monitoring stations are picking up unusual quantum signatures, like nothing we've ever seen before." Eleanor took a deep breath, her grandmother's training guiding her actions. "Lily, start the compatibility sequence we practiced. William, prepare your algorithm for quantum transformation. This is going to work, but only if we do it together." Lily proudly began entering the series of commands Eleanor had taught her earlier, understanding now why those practice sessions had been so important. William positioned himself at a secondary console, ready to implement his transformed algorithm at exactly the right moment. Primary core shut down in 60 seconds, the quantum key generator displayed. Phoenix protocol ready for activation. Eleanor's fingers flew across the keyboard, implementing Margaret's final protocol with the precision and confidence her grandmother had instilled in her. On the main screen, they could see the global network transforming. Instead of the hierarchical structure they were used to, it was becoming something organic, adaptive, alive. The quantum cores aren't failing, William realized, watching the energy patterns shift. They're evolving. Margaret didn't just build a backup system, she designed the next stage of quantum computing itself. 30 seconds to core shutdown, the quantum key generator warned. "Now, Lily," Eleanor called out. Lily executed her part of the sequence perfectly, her small hands steady on the keyboard. "Algorithm transformation ready," William announced. Eleanor took one last look at her grandmother's message before initiating the final sequence. Phoenix protocol activating in 3, 2, 1. The command center plunged into darkness for a heart-stopping moment. Then, one by one, the screens began coming back online, displaying something extraordinary. The network map had transformed completely. Instead of discrete nodes and connection points, it showed an interconnected web of quantum processes, flowing and adapting like a living organism. "It's beautiful," Lily whispered, watching the patterns shift and flow across the screens. The quantum key generator's display had changed too, now showing a simple message. "Phoenix protocol complete. New network genesis successful. Balance achieved." The secure laptop lit up with rapid-fire messages. "Anderson, the quantum cores. They're operating in perfect harmony. No controlling interest needed. No central authority, just pure balanced cooperation. Michael, global systems stabilizing, power grids operating at optimal efficiency, transportation networks synchronized. It's working better than anyone could have imagined." Benjamin, Margaret did it. She actually did it. She found a way to make the whole system self-sustaining and incorruptible. Eleanor sat back in her chair, emotions overwhelming her as she realized the full scope of what they'd accomplished. Her grandmother's lifetime of work, William's revolutionary algorithm, and their daughter's innocent wisdom had all come together to create something unprecedented. William put his arm around her shoulders, and Lily climbed into her lap, the family united in their moment of triumph. But before they could fully process what had happened, one final message appeared on the secure laptop. This one automatically triggered by the successful completion of the Phoenix protocol. "My dearest family," Margaret's message began. "Now that the new system is online, there's something else you need to know. Something about why I really started investigating international financial solutions all those years ago. It's time for you to learn the true story of how this all began." Margaret's message filled the screen of the secure laptop. Her words, bringing the past into sharp focus. "My dearest Eleanor, William, and Lily, if you're reading this, then the Phoenix protocol has succeeded, and the new quantum network is operational. But the story of how this all began goes back much further than international financial solutions, further even than the creation of William's algorithm. It began with your grandfather, Eleanor Henry Thompson. He was one of the original architects of what would become the global financial network. In 1985, he discovered something troubling. A small group of powerful individuals was quietly positioning themselves to gain control of the entire system. They called themselves the Harmony Project. Henry recognized that technology would eventually advance to a point where whoever controlled the financial networks could control everything: resources, energy, information. He began developing countermeasures, ways to prevent any single entity from gaining too much power. But before he could implement his safeguards, he discovered that the project had infiltrated his own team. The official story was that Henry had a sudden heart attack. I knew better. I found his research notes hidden in this very house, along with a warning about what was coming. That's when I began my own work, learning everything I could about quantum, computing and network architecture. I knew I had to finish what Henry started. When William's firm began gaining attention for its innovative approach to resource management, I recognized the patterns. The Harmony project, now operating through International Financial Solutions, saw the potential in William's algorithm. They knew it could be the key to finally achieving what they'd been working toward for decades. I couldn't warn you directly. They were watching too closely. Instead, I began preparing for this moment in other ways. Eleanor, all those summers you spent here, every puzzle and game was designed to teach you what you'd need to know. When you married William, I knew it wasn't coincidence. The pieces were finally coming together. Margaret's involvement with International Financial Solutions wasn't random either. They recruited her specifically because of her connection to William's work. What they didn't know was that I had already identified their agents within IFS. William Anderson wasn't just another operative. He was Henry's former protégé. Turned by the project, but never fully comfortable with their methods. Lily, my precious granddaughter-in-law, your discovery in the backyard wasn't an accident. I made sure the neighborhood gossip about buried treasure would reach the right ears. We needed International Financial Solutions to make their move now, while we were ready for them. The Phoenix Protocol isn't just a new form of quantum network. It's the fulfillment of Henry's original vision, a system that ensures no single group can ever control humanity's shared resources. The quantum cores didn't fail. They transformed into exactly what they were always meant to be. But our work isn't finished. The Harmony project won't give up easily. They'll try to find other ways to regain control. That's why I've prepared one final gift for you all. In the hidden compartment, behind the leftmost filing cabinet, you'll find everything you need to ensure they can never threaten the balance again. Helena, you've exceeded every hope I had for you. William, your brilliant mind and honest heart have helped create something extraordinary. And Lily, your pure spirit and innocent wisdom remind me so much of Henry. Together you've become exactly the guardians this new system needs. I love you all. Take care of each other and remember, true power lies not in control, but in the balance between all things. With all my love, Margaret. Lily was the first to move, heading straight for the filing cabinet Margaret had mentioned. Behind it, they found a hidden panel containing a small safe. The combination was Lily's birthday. Inside were 3 items: a quantum encryption key labeled insurance policy, a thick folder marked project members, and a photograph of a younger Margaret with a distinguished-looking man who had Eleanor's eyes. "Grandpa Henry," Eleanor whispered, touching the photo gently. "All this time, everything Grandma Margaret did. She was protecting us," William finished. "All of us, not just her family, but everyone who could have been controlled by their system." The secure laptop chimed with new messages. "Michael, you need to see this. International Financial Solutions board members are confessing everything. The whole Harmony Project network is unraveling." Anderson. Margaret Thompson knew. She knew I was looking for a way out. "Tell Eleanor her grandmother saved more than just the system. She saved all of us from becoming something we'd regret." Lily held up another notebook she'd found behind the safe. "Look, Grandma Margaret left instructions for what to do next. She says we're supposed to be the new guardians of the Phoenix network." Eleanor and William shared a look of understanding. Margaret hadn't just given them the means to stop the project, she'd given them a purpose, a way to ensure that balance would be maintained for generations to come. The quantum key generator displayed one final message: Phoenix network stable. Guardian protocols ready for activation. The future is in your hands. 1 month later, the Victorian house had transformed from a simple safe house into the heart of something remarkable. The basement command center now served as the primary monitoring station for the Phoenix network, with additional guardians being carefully selected and trained around the world. Eleanor sat at what had been her grandmother's desk, now modified to accommodate the modern equipment needed to oversee the network. Lily had her own small workstation nearby, where she was learning the basic principles of quantum computing through specially designed programs Margaret had created for future guardians. William entered the room, carrying fresh coffee and a hot chocolate for Lily. "Michael just checked in. The last of the project's hidden accounts have been located and neutralized. Anderson's testimony helped identify every member of their inner circle. "And Benjamin?" Eleanor asked, taking her coffee gratefully. "He's doing amazing work with the educational program. Margaret's training methods are being adapted to help prepare the next generation of guardians, though I doubt anyone will ever create puzzles quite like she did." Lily looked up from her terminal, where she was solving one of Margaret's original quantum harmony puzzles. "Mom, when can I start training other kids? I want to teach Lisa some of the beginner puzzles." Eleanor smiled at her daughter's enthusiasm. "Soon, sweetheart. Remember what Grandma Margaret wrote about responsibility and timing. A guardian must first master their own balance before helping others find theirs," Lily quoted perfectly. "I know, but I'm getting really good at the harmony puzzles." The secure laptop, now permanently stationed at Eleanor's desk, chimed with an incoming message from Anderson. "Monthly network analysis complete. The Phoenix system continues to evolve in ways we never imagined. Resource distribution has reached optimal efficiency across 87% of connected nodes." Margaret Thompson's vision was far greater than any of us understood. William moved to the main monitoring station, studying the flowing patterns of the quantum network. What had once been rigid lines of power and control had become an organic, living system that adapted and grew to meet the world's changing needs. "She knew," he said softly. Margaret knew that the real solution wasn't about fighting for control. It was about creating something that could grow and change on its own, guided by people who understood the importance of balance. Eleanor nodded, remembering all those summer afternoons spent with her grandmother, learning lessons she hadn't even realized she was being taught. She built all of this one piece at a time, preparing for a future she knew would come. Lily suddenly sat up straighter at her station. "Mom, Dad, look what I found in the harmony pattern." They gathered around her screen, where the usual flowing data streams had formed an unusual configuration. Within the quantum noise, a clear message had emerged. "The greatest treasures are the ones we build together." Margaret's final Easter egg, William said with a smile. She probably programmed it to appear once the network reached true harmony. The quantum key generator, which they had kept as a tribute to Margaret's work, displayed a new message. Guardian network expanding, new nodes activating in response to community needs. The Phoenix rises anew each day. Eleanor touched the framed photo of Margaret and Henry that now hung on the wall. They would be proud of what their work has become. Not just a security system or a resource management tool, but a way to bring people together, to help them understand the power of balance and cooperation. "And we get to protect it," Lily added proudly, returning to her puzzles with renewed enthusiasm. The secure laptop lit up with messages from Guardian stations around the world, each reporting successful integrations and growing community involvement. What had started as one woman's mission to protect humanity's future had blossomed into a global network of people working together to maintain the balance Margaret had fought so hard to create. William wrapped his arm around Eleanor's shoulders as they watched their daughter work. "You know, when Lily first found that briefcase in our backyard, I thought everything I'd built was about to come crashing down. Instead, it led us to everything we were meant to build," Eleanor finished. "Not just a new system, but a new way of thinking about power and responsibility." Through the basement window, they could see the sun setting over the New Hampshire mountains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple. The same view Margaret had looked at for so many years while planning, preparing, and believing in a future where balance would triumph over control. The quantum key generator displayed its evening status update. Phoenix network operating at optimal efficiency. Balance maintained. The future is secure. And in her special Guardian's notebook, Lily wrote her daily log entry, just as Margaret had taught her. "Today I learned that the biggest treasures aren't things we find or build. They're the connections we make and the balance we create together, just like Grandma Margaret always knew." 6 months after the activation of the Phoenix network, the Thompson family gathered in their old backyard for one final task. The house had been sold, but before handing over the keys, they had one last piece of business to attend to. Lily stood beside her father, holding a small garden shovel similar to the one that had started their extraordinary journey. "Are you sure we have to fill them all in, Dad?" What if someone else needs to find a special treasure someday? William smiled, ruffling his daughter's hair. The real treasure isn't in these holes anymore, Princess. It's in what we discovered along the way. Eleanor supervised as Michael and Benjamin helped locate and fill in the last few spots where briefcases had been buried. The money they'd recovered had been quietly returned to its rightful owners through a special program overseen by the Phoenix Network's Ethics Committee. "Hard to believe it all started here," Michael said, patting down the fresh soil. "A little girl's treasure hunt that changed everything." Benjamin nodded, looking more relaxed than he had in years. Margaret Thompson would have appreciated the poetry of it, using a child's innocent curiosity to trigger the fall of a decades-old conspiracy. The secure laptop, which Eleanor always carried now, chimed with a message from Anderson. "International. Financial Solutions' final assets have been redistributed. The Harmony Project's infrastructure has been completely repurposed for the Phoenix network. Margaret's vision is fully realized." Lily had wandered over to the old oak tree where Mr. Buttons had once kept watch over her treasure hunting expedition. She pulled out her special diary, the one Michael had given her during their escape, and began to write. "What are you recording, sweetheart?" Eleanor asked, sitting beside her daughter. "I'm writing about how sometimes the best treasures are the ones you can't see," Lily replied thoughtfully. "Like family and balance and doing the right thing even when it's scary." William joined them under the tree, followed by Michael and Benjamin. The five of them, once divided by suspicion and old wounds, had become something like a family themselves, united by their shared mission as guardians of the Phoenix network. "The new owners are a young family," Eleanor mentioned, looking at the house. "Their daughter is about Lily's age. Maybe she'll find her own kind of treasure here," Lily suggested. "Not in the ground, but in the memories we're leaving behind." Michael pulled out his phone to show them something. "Speaking of memories, look what Anderson found in the old IFS archives. A photo from the day your firm opened, William. Look, who's in the background?" The photo showed a much younger William and Michael cutting the ribbon at their new office, but barely visible through one of the windows was Margaret Thompson, watching the ceremony with a knowing smile. She was there from the beginning, William realized. Watching, planning, making sure we'd all be ready when the time came. The quantum key generator in Eleanor's bag displayed a new message. Guardian network growing. New training centers established on 5 continents. Balance maintained through cooperation and understanding. Lily closed her diary and stood up, brushing grass from her clothes. "Mum, can we do one last thing before we go?" At Eleanor's nod, Lily retrieved a small metal box from her backpack. Inside was a letter she had written, along with a copy of Margaret's first Harmony Project puzzle. "I want to leave it in the tree hollow," Lily explained. "So if another kid ever needs to learn about balance and guardians, they'll have somewhere to start." They watched as Lily carefully placed the box in the old oak's hollow, marking the spot with a small carved symbol that only other guardians would recognize. The network isn't just computers and quantum codes, Eleanor realized, watching her daughter. It's people, connections, stories passed down to help others find their way. William checked his watch. "We should go. The new owners will be here soon." As they walked to their cars, Lily took one last look at the yard where her innocent treasure hunt had set everything in motion. "Dad, are you sad about leaving the treasure behind?" William lifted his daughter into a hug. "Not at all, Princess. The real treasure is right here, coming with us to our new adventure." The secure laptop chimed one final time before they left, displaying a message that made them all smile. Phoenix Network, detecting new potential Guardian signal. Location: Old Oak Tree, 247 Oak Lane. The next chapter begins. 1 year to the day after Lily first dug up that fateful briefcase, the Thompson family hosted a very special gathering at their New Hampshire home. The Victorian house had become more than just a guardian station. It was now a beacon of hope and learning for people around the world who understood the importance of balance. The wraparound porch was filled with both familiar and new faces. Michael and Benjamin were there, of course, along with Anderson, who had become one of their most valuable allies in expanding the Guardian network. But there were also dozens of new Guardians, including families with children who, like Lily, showed a natural aptitude for understanding the delicate balance the Phoenix Network required. Eleanor stood at a podium they'd set up in the garden, preparing to address the gathered crowd. Behind her, a large screen displayed the flowing patterns of the quantum network, its harmonious movements a testament to Margaret's vision. 1 year ago, she began, a little girl's treasure hunt led us to discover something far more valuable than money. My grandmother, Margaret Thompson, spent her life preparing for a future where power would be balanced by wisdom, where control would give way to cooperation. She gestured to the screen, where the quantum patterns had formed one of Margaret's signature harmony puzzles. The Phoenix Network isn't just a system, it's a testament to what humanity can achieve when we work together. Each of you here today represents a piece of that vision. Lily, now proudly wearing her official Guardian training badge, sat between William and Michael in the front row. She had spent the past year not only learning from Margaret's puzzles, but helping to create new ones for the next generation of Guardians. The Harmony Project believed that controlling resources meant controlling people, Eleanor continued. Margaret showed us a different path. Today, the Phoenix Network helps distribute resources more efficiently than ever before, not through force or manipulation, but through understanding and cooperation. The secure laptop on the podium displayed a series of messages from Guardian stations around the world, each reporting successful implementations of Margaret's training methods and growing community involvement. But our work isn't finished, Eleanor said, her voice strong and clear. As Guardians, we have a responsibility not just to maintain the network, but to ensure that future generations understand the importance of balance. That's why today, we're announcing the establishment of the Thompson Guardian Academy. William joined her at the podium, unrolling architectural plans for an expansion of the Victorian house. This house, which has already served as a sanctuary and training ground, will become a full-time school for future Guardians. Margaret's puzzles and Henry's principles will be taught alongside modern quantum computing and ethics. Lily bounced excitedly in her seat. I helped design the training rooms, she whispered to Michael. They're like giant versions of Grandma Margaret's puzzles. The quantum key generator, now mounted in a place of honor in the main hall, displayed its milestone message. 1 year of balanced operation. Guardian network at optimal efficiency. Margaret Thompson's legacy secure. As Eleanor concluded her speech, she held up the photo of Margaret and Henry that had become a symbol of their mission. My grandparents understood that true power lies not in what we control, but in what we nurture and protect. Each of you carries a piece of that understanding. The gathering transformed into a celebration, with new and experienced Guardians sharing stories and insights. Children ran through the garden, solving physical versions of Margaret's puzzles that Lily had helped create. The Phoenix Network's patterns danced across screens throughout the house, its harmony a constant reminder of what they were protecting. Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, the Thompson family stood on the porch watching the sunset. Lily had her diary open, making notes about the day's events. "What are you writing, Princess?" William asked. "About how finding treasure isn't always about digging holes," Lily replied thoughtfully. "Sometimes it's about filling them in with something better." Eleanor wrapped her arm around her daughter's shoulders, remembering the little girl who had started this journey with a plastic shovel and a big imagination. "Your Grandma Margaret would be very proud of you, sweetheart. Of all of us," William added, pulling his family close. The quantum key generator chimed one last time that day, displaying what they would later realize was Margaret's final programmed message. To those who guard the balance. The greatest power lies not in what we keep, but in what we share. The greatest wealth is not what we hold, but what we give. The greatest legacy is not what we control, but what we teach others to understand. Keep the balance, protect the harmony, and remember, every treasure hunt leads to something unexpected, if we're brave enough to follow where it leads. The sun set over the New Hampshire mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. In the garden, the old oak tree they'd transplanted from their former home stood strong, its hollow ready to hold new secrets for future Guardians to discover. And somewhere, in the quantum harmony of the Phoenix Network, Margaret Thompson's, vision lived on, growing, evolving, and bringing balance to a world that needed it more than ever.